Non-believers out there. This is Sunday school. I am the minister. F-B-P.
We come around once in a blue moon, just to show you that we love you and we'll never leave, 'cause we are anointed. We're the same way every day.
All right, so health nature. The reason I called it health nature is I wanted to keep it simple. My major in college was graphic design, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet, although when I talk, it doesn't really work out that way. So, health and nature. Who we got rocking in? Come on up in here. Go for it. All right, so let me get the disclaimer out the way because it's an absolute must. This presentation is for entertainment purposes only. I personally do not claim to diagnose, cure, treat, or heal any disease. The human body performs these functions on its own. That is the key line right there, okay? This info is not meant to be taken as medical advice. Please follow the laws of your local municipality. Please consult your physician before the use of any herbs, chemicals, or partaking in any exercise when ill or under a physician's care. That is a normal disclaimer. I do not have any degrees, no certifications, and that is on purpose. It took me a while to gather the information to determine what I want to do. In the future, right now, it is very clear that I'm probably going to try and go into chiropractic care and anything along the lines of it, perhaps learning how to massage. For those who don't know this, chiropractic care is not bone manipulation. It is a nerve doctrine. They do not manipulate bone only. So when you hear them in there cracking and pulling on things, they're resetting the nerves. And by resetting the spine, you're resetting the nerves. That's the only reason they move things back into position, okay? So that's so people don't go there thinking that they're just trying to snap your bones back in place and they wind up snapping you in half. And you know, you get all these kinds of things when it comes to the alternative, right? All right. So let's move on. Let's deal with some simple concepts. Wisdom. A lot of you guys have wisdom because a lot of what you spoke comes that way. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Neither decline from the words of, well, not my mouth, but this was written in the Bible, right? Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. We are not here just for you to say, you're absolutely right, Marvin. It is up to you to determine that based on the life you live and the things that work for you, because to an extent, we do have differences from one person to another, okay? So, getting understanding is very important. Whether you agree or disagree with somebody, all you have to be able to do when you walk away is say, you know what, I understand it. It's that simple. You don't have to agree. That's why most of the time we get along when we talk in the gym, because we don't have to agree. The moment I see what you're talking about, I'm going to just hold that in my mind's Rolodex and apply it when necessary. Because one day, perhaps you're not here, but I understand you. Someone's talking about you, and now I can defer to what you said, because I understand you. And they might say, well, you agree with that? No, I just said I agree. I just said I understand the brother. So I know which path he's taking. So the more information we get, the more understanding, the more wisdom that we get for each other, we will be able to help one another out, because we'll have so many perspectives, we'll know when to apply which one. Okay? All right. So, simple concepts again. Here talking about universe. Universe is in uni, one verse. I want you to think about this as sound, as music. Because everyone tells you in the very beginning there was the word. Obviously, it's not the type of words I'm speaking, so the word is an utterance. Utterance is a sound. So the moment a sound was made, the universe existed. Again, you do not have to agree with that. I'm just giving you something because in the end, you're going to realize how it all connects, okay? So, universe, single verse. Let's keep moving. From a single verse, you get multiple vibrations of that one word, or that one verse, or whatever it is called. As it vibrates, you produce something from it. The stronger it vibrates, the denser it will actually get. So the reason these things exist is based on the electromagnetic spectrum. Now they put green and blue over here, but this is actually black. So the visible spectrum is right here in the middle. This is everything that we see. Although we see all these colors, the edges of them are actually black. Our body likes to live just beyond this red zone. So the heat that your body produces, that 98 point, right? That's coming from the infrared spectrum. So anything you hear in this world that is infrared related has a healing capacity for you. That's why they have infrared saunas. And for those, anybody ever use the infrared sauna? You use one? How do you feel?
Good.
Nice, right?
Good.
So not only is it hot, you have an infrared light in there. Infrared light, not a red light. A lot of people will screw you over and they'll give you a red light and you'll be like, yeah, I got infrared. Like, no, it's not. But if you want to make a cheesy one, you have to get you a infrared bulb. I'll have to see if I can find the website for you guys, but you can screw an infrared bulb in your bathroom, turn the shower on real hot, put a towel below the door, and it'll steam the place up like a sauna. So that's one way you can do things while you're at home. I hope you got some good paint on your bathroom door because obviously if you don't, you're gonna tear some things up. But okay, so radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet. Once we go beyond that infrared point, we start to move further and further into more dangerous radiation. A lot of people like to act like the sun is over here. It is by itself, but because we're so far away and we have a lot of buffers in between, we actually take the sun and get a lot of the things from this area and back. So when they say go out and get sun so you can get vitamin D and all those things like that, it's because the radiation crosses all the paths throughout the day. So in the morning when you wake up and you have your eyes to the sky and you're watching the sun rise, it acclimates your body to the time scale that the earth works on. Okay? So as the sun comes up, you wake up. As the sun goes down, you become tired. As you become awake, serotonin, you heard of serotonin, right?
Yes.
Serotonin is when you wake up. Melatonin is when you go down. That's why they say take a melatonin pill when you want to go to sleep, because it makes you calm and relaxed and it makes you have the ability to go to sleep. So that's where that comes from. So the main reason I brought this up is for the sake of vibration. Before you talk about anything in the world, you want to talk about vibration. You're on a low vibration. You're on a high vibration. That's all that really means. When you're on a higher vibration, that means you encompass all the vibrations prior to that. If somebody vibrates on a higher level, you know, when people talk to you like that, man, I don't vibe with that person. What it means is you don't match vibrations. The more human you are, human, I want you to spell that H-U-E, human, that's what the color is based on. That's where that term came from. You have hue to make you a man. That was also one of the terms that separated white from black, but I'll get into that later on, okay? So when you vibrate at higher levels, you encompass all of the vibrations prior to it because you're stronger than them. So when people come up to you with hype personalities and you have a hype personality, you both vibrate on the same level, so it's easy for you to get along. The more people you get along with, the more wise you are, the more conscious you are, the more you vibe with people. And that's how people connect. The less people you vibe with, I'll leave that to you to determine how you feel about it. So,
I like it.
yep, so all right, let's get the vibration thing out of here. You know what, I have some cards to make sure that I don't jump too far ahead, but ask a question at any time. I don't mind jumping ahead and getting scatterbrained. Give me 1 second. All right. Throw these up before I can. All right, we got vibration. All right, electromagnetism. Let's handle that one. Electromagnetism is very important. Dr. Sebi, anybody? Raise your hand if you know Dr. Sebi. How many people actually know his purpose? Somebody didn't know his purpose. Okay, one. One. Okay. Dr. Sebi's main point was, this is one of the things that he talked about. I ain't gonna say the main point, but this is one of them. Electric cell phone. The reason he said that is because if you're an electrician, they have tools that allow you to measure the electric capacity of stuff. If you want to test that at home, all you have to do is take your charger out the base of your cell phone, stick it into a lemon, stick the other side of your cell phone, it'll turn on. So that lets you know that food has an electric capacity in it. When you eat dead food, you don't get no electricity out of it, which is why you start to look dead over time. Nothing that kills you in this world is not dead. So you have to keep that in mind. So if you want the first upfront answer on why you don't eat the things that we so-called love so much, is because it's dead food. So it's going to make you look dead, but it's not quick. That's why everybody vouches for it. It takes 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years for it to happen. And then you can say, it's because I got old.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's the skinny of it all. But Dr. Sebi, if you have not gotten it yet, it's probably on, I think it's on Amazon now. We just saw it's on Amazon. This is the book that just came out. So prior to seeing the Nipsey Hussle documentary that they're working on, you probably want to grab this book because it's probably got more information in it than I'm going to need out of the documentary. And he has a lot of stuff in there. You get to learn the type of person Dr. Sebi actually was. Let's go next slide. Do y'all feel like I left anything out? Because like I said, I get scatterbrained. Keep me on point sometimes. I don't mind. Anything else you want to know?
Experiment on electricity?
I was going to expound on electromagnetism.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Let me see what we got next. All right. This is a good starting point. Light. So here's what happened. Man, I should have took that thing. I was going to have you grab it. I have this metal thing in my car. It's like a circle, and when you tap it, it like explodes out, and it represents this very well. You know what it looks like in the video. You know what it looks like. But I wish I had that on me. So let's illustrate, shall we? I don't mind drawing a little something, something. So what happens is what we call space that we actually live in. You have, right? Let's call this God, the ether, whatever you want to call it. Everything inside the circle is everything, the alpha. Everything outside the circle is the omega, or everything else with the nothing. So you have everything inside, nothing outside. They'd be like, but he's all encompassing. I'm like, you're right, because everything here is him, or her, whatever way you want to look at it, and everything outside of it is nothing. That's how you're the alpha and the omega. Now, when there's a disturbance, when there's a vibration, when there is the word, this explodes outward in what they call a toroid shape, which looks like a donut, right? And what happens is you get this spiraling motion as it comes out. So it kind of spirals out like that. And we keep going around and around and around like this. And eventually when you go back the other way, you guys start to recognize a spiral graph pattern is what they call it. And from the top down, it's actually doing something like this. You see marks going like this, like a star. And then you see the other ones going back the other way. And when you do this far enough away, it looks like a large grid with a hole in the middle. So if you were watching the news a couple of months ago, they were like, we got a picture of a black hole. The black hole, the colored part, is everything away from that. And the very center of it is an hourglass. That's the inverse of that position. Now, why am I telling you this? Because when something explodes out, that's how space is created. In the scientific world, they don't use it often, but it's called space and counter space. Space is what you live in. Counter space is the opposite of what you do. Yin yang, right? Yin yang. I have a slide for that. Let's see if I got it on here. There you go. Yin yang, balance of scales. What's that called? What's this one called? They do use it for the logo, but that's not what it's called. This is called the caduceus staff. Two snakes intertwining, meeting in the middle. This was actually used for commerce. So the commerce used in the world is about how to balance the power. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's how politics actually works. A lot of people work politics by saying, this is what I want, give it to me because I give you a little something. But today's world, you give me a lot, I give you a lot. It's that simple. If you study the information on how voting actually works, you'll realize that Asians rarely participate in the voting process. What they do is they dump cash on the person, and the person gives them what they want. So cash speaks more than a donor.
Yeah.
What's the term they give for it? Lobby. That's the term they give for it, right? So lobby. You give me something, I give you something. The other people can vote all they want, but the issue with certain locations is they know people are going to vote for them anyway. So this is why it's a problem that I have in 3 schools of thought. Because when you got 2, right? And as you see today, they're both arguing back and forth. There's nobody in the middle to break the tie. You know what? Both of y'all are crazy. I'm gonna just go over here. And then when you go over there, everybody gonna look at that one person left like, it's up to you to save the world now. What you gonna give us? Because we all talking about this, they arguing about that crap over there. We don't care. But we don't have a third party. And when you do be third party, if I'm correct, you can't vote the primary. You can't. So, again, but that's okay with me, because locally, that's what matters to most of us, right? Locally, we get our election on, the presidents kind of talk their stuff, and you wind up with 2 choices anyway, none of them you want. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so space explodes out in a toroid fashion, or this hourglass figure called a hyperboloid. And it does the same thing, except it just goes like this. Spirals in, spirals back out. When you are up and running around, you're giving your energy out. You're spiraling back in. You're not spiraling out, you're spiraling back in, right? Give me a moment to think about that. I want to make sure I'm saying that right. All right, so you are releasing energy. So it's the other way around. You're releasing energy, you're expanding. When you go to sleep, you're spiraling back in. I think the term that the old head used, I'm just saying old head in general, is you got to turn time backwards and emit. So we have time, right? We have to turn time backwards and emit. It's just the reverse of the word. So that's one of those homonyms, I guess we would call it. Whatever the term is you use when you put a sound or something. So that's basically what he was saying. So the reason this is important is because every time these spiraling outs happen, if you look at something, I'm giving y'all some technical stuff. We at the beginning. We're gonna get it going eventually. They have something called a ferrocell. Ferrocell. The reason it's called ferro is because iron is actually called ferrite, right? That's why it's Fe on the chart. So on the periodic table, right? So you got ferrite. They call it a ferrocell is because if you put a magnetic substance under the ferrocell, which is like a iron liquid medium, and you shine a light through it, this pattern shows up. That's how they're able to read how things unfold in the universe. So just believe that when I get to the end of this, you're going to see the technology is way beyond where people think it is. They playing God. They'll never be able to do that. Over 50% is already done. We're going to see that in the end, okay? So when you look at a magnet, you get yourself a magnet, and then you buy a ferrocell from the store. You put the magnet below it, you set the ferrocell on top, and you look straight down at it, and it has lights on the side. When you turn the light on, you'll see this spiral pattern from the top down. The part in the middle is the inertial plane, right? That's the point where nothing is going on. And the reason we call it counter space, and I'm going to show you a principle, and then we're going to move on. But this is a part of these principles, and you'll recognize the symbol very easily. So you ever hear what goes around comes back around, right? Mm-hmm. I need like a better eraser. What's up? Got any of those wet wipes that are on stereo? You saw that? All right, I see you. That's right. The women be having.
Exactly.
Why you got all that stuff in your purse? Let me get a napkin, paper towel or something. I'm gonna need that too. Just over the board, wet. Somebody grab one of you. Thank you, sir.
What was you saying about the women? Here you go. Right? So?
Oh, don't worry. Women gonna get plenty of big ups today. Because that is a very important, when it comes to the principles of life, the female perspective is very important. It's the main reason why nowadays, even though people are going to do what they want to do, you don't want to start blurring the lines between male and female. But if you do, everything in nature has a way of rebalancing itself. So no matter how far you go, you're going to wind up coming back to the beginning again. Because all people really want is something new. They don't want to repeat the same thing over and over again. That's something all humans do. As they get older, they don't want to redundantly do the same thing over and over again. So here's what happens. Good guy, bad guy, right? Good guy, bad guy are right here. The further you decide to do something against me, the more you're going to reap the problem snapping back in the other direction. So here's how it works. I didn't completely connect this dot. Why? Because if something happens to stop it from reconnecting, it'll snap back at you. So you slap somebody in the face, maybe they got a calm, cool personality. Why you hit me in the face? Slap them again. Come on, man. Keep slapping me in the face. Slap me in the face the third time, and now you're thinking about it. You're trying to weigh and measure how this going to turn out, because you ain't going to throw a slap back. You're going to probably come around with a punch. So that's what this infinity symbol represents. The infinity symbol is just showing how in counter space, as things move further in one direction, they eventually have to come back around. If you keep the cycle going, it will keep flowing. But if you make the cycle go in the wrong direction, and it's a negative way, it'll eventually snap back on you. So the world where we are right now is such a case. It's a military world. And because we live in a military world, everything is thought about militarily. We say, oh, the military, you're supposed to this, that, and that for the military. You know why I cheer for the military? Because of their community, their camaraderie. Brandon can vouch, right? Camaraderie, that's it. It ain't got nothing to do with the fact that they protect our freedoms. Because as they protect our freedoms, somebody else is losing them. And the more people lose them, more ideologies are being formed across the earth to explain it. And that's what's helping people keep their psychological thing together. Alan, what it do, sir?
How you doing?
So, okay, right? So we got the infinity symbol. I wanted to get that part out of the way. So all of these are nothing more than balances of power. Now, never think that one side of the equation, what's going on? There is no one side of the equation that is that's stronger than the other. You can't do without me, I can't do without you. That's actually true. But the thing about this is, you notice in the yin and yang symbol, they always put a little bit of the other side in it. Because that's just the way it works. We can talk about how females are nurturing all we want. It doesn't mean the man has no nurturing in them. So if you want an example of what the military does, I'm going to use that same slap example, right? I come into your country or into your house. I slap everybody in the face. The moment someone, let's say back then the protector was looked at as the man, right? Or the men of the community. I slap the people in the house in the face. The moment the men try and come and retaliate, somebody picks up a gun and says, you come, I will kill all of you. And I'll have this anyway. So eventually, to keep their life, they're going to just go along with the flow. But best believe, even though you got the gun pointed in my face and you're standing in my house, I'm waiting on you to turn your back after a while because I want my freedom back. But with America, it doesn't work like that. Eventually, what they do is they say, all right, we need to get out of here. We got some more places to conquer. I need you three right there to build something right here so we can keep an eye on the folks here. And after a while, when generations turn over, I start to learn how to get you to accept me. And that's what it is. The past never repeats itself. People think that it's going to get more evil and more evil. What you're seeing is more evil happening, but the system itself is not meant to get more evil and more evil. It's meant to create a system where you're more accepting of it, so that you can get out of your hand. Yes, sir.
Which is why we have bases and
That's what it's about. That's the definition of protecting a freedom. Somebody, exactly. That's exactly how it works. You protect the freedom by taking someone else's. Why? Not because you just want to. Now, you can get the people who come in and be like, it's just white people this and white people that. And it's like, no, they're just doing what they do. What it is where they come from, they learn something about where everybody else is, and they have something they don't have. And they're not giving it to them. So they say, then I have to take it. And the real truth of the world so far is, it's not about the person with the greatest personality gets all this and gets all that. No, it's the person who has an agenda and can back it up. If you sitting at home like, I'm a homeowner, somebody can straight come down there and be like, you own this home? Yeah, I got like 50 military people out here to say, you don't own it no more, can you get out, please? And you'll be like, wait a minute, you can't do this, my rights. They're like, this gun says you have no rights. That's just being cold cut real about the way it is. Now, this is America. So as long as you live and do your commerce and you help it out, it's no problem. Because remember, this is my society. This is the way I want it to be. I'm not trying to hurt y'all. I had to hurt some people to get this far, but I'm trying to take the hurt away. That's the society you live in. Okay? Mm-hmm. So like, we're talking about electromagnetism. A big portion of the electromagnetism we get is the sun. The alternative is the cold, because there's always opposites. There's no such thing as one being better than the other. There's a reason this exists on Earth as the other side exists. It can't be an all hot Earth. It can't be an all cold Earth. There's got to be a balance in the middle. The Earth balances its temperature just like we do. It's what they call pressure mediation. You put pressure against me, I put pressure against you. We do our best to sit in the middle. What does, since we're talking about that?
So are you essentially talking about the equator?
Because here's the thing. It can be a little cold in Philly, but it can be very cold somewhere else. So there's little pieces in between. So you could say that you got the poles, right? It's cold up here, it's hot over there. Over time, they slowly start to shift. When they start to shift, things get a little violent in the atmosphere. What does this mean? Hold on, let me not write so crappy. A lot of people talk about this, but since we're talking about, sun, ice, water, tell me what this stands for, since so many people talk about it. What's it stand for?
Potential for hydrogen.
Alkaline balance.
No, alkaline balance.
You can say that, but it's potential hydrogen. Yeah, a couple of y'all said it. Potential hydrogen. What does it mean to you?
The overabundance of it. Or
Got some 9.5 pH water. Oh, just so y'all know, the waters are free. We got some pH 9.0 water, 9.5 water over there. What does it mean to you?
That's good.
Somebody says good. Somebody says good, highly alkaline, yeah, but
What's the difference between acidic and
But why does the pH matter to me?
If you're acidic.
Like, tell me with the, yeah, I can tell you the answer. I want to see what y'all know. Tell
Needs to
me.
be more,
So you won't die.
something with.
So, yeah, guys.
If you're too acidic,
All right.
that's what's gonna happen.
Go ahead.
More alkaline.
It is more alkaline on one side, more acid on the other side. But what does that really mean to you? Because y'all can keep that. We can buy the most alkaline water in the world. What's it doing?
Keeping them getting diseases.
It could. Go ahead, Mark.
The more alkaline the body is, the better it functions.
The better it functions. All right. So let's throw some gaps in there, right? pH scale goes from what? What's the acid side? What's the last number on the acid side?
1.
1. What is it?
1. 0 to 10 scale.
0. 0, 2. Where's the body at?
7. 3.
6.
I heard 7. Let's put the 7 down. 7 what?
0.4. 3.
6.
5.
Close. I'll give you a number easy to remember.
4.
It's 7 days a week. How many days a year?
7.
365. Just remember that. Makes it easy to remember. You have nothing to do with that number. Even doctors cannot absolutely control that number every second. Your body doesn't. Because what did I tell you in the beginning? It's pressure mediation. You push against me, I'll push against you. If you make it too alkaline, what's 14 on the alkaline scale? What's 14 and 13?
Dangerous.
What is it? What's it actually called?
Yeah.
What could it be? That's one of them.
Could be worse.
Who said the other one?
It's it.
There you go. Ammonia and bleach. So if we're going to alkalize a dye, go ahead and drink some bleach. Let's see what happens. Get your bleach on. Your job is to your job is to stay as close to this number as you can. So like this right here, you can't just come. I was telling them earlier, you can't just come to lecture with any bottle of water, right? I just had to make it look good for nothing. But one thing I'm a big person to vouch for is always get it in glass. Okay? Because it's like you can't trust the plastic. All glass ain't perfect, but it's certainly easier chance for me to get along with glass than it is for plastic. So here's what they put on here. Naturally alkaline with a pH of 8.0 or higher, which means it's starting at 8.0 and I could be drinking this joint around 12. And I might be alkalizing the crap out of my system. The only time it's good for me to alkalize is if I'm extremely acidic inside my body. However, your body's acidity changes depending on what part of the body you're talking about. So it's not a case of that. Acid isn't always the problem because you are an acid body that accepts alkaline substances. Because acid will steal something from alkaline or alkaline will donate to acid. Okay, so we got that? So when you eat something alkaline, you're feeding the acids. Why? What acids we got in our body? Name 2 of them.
Stomach acid.
Just think the word acid, it usually comes to mind.
Stomach acid.
That's one of them. That's a good one. Gastric acid.
Fatty.
Mhm. Give me the big ones. We getting closer. Think smaller. Give you one. Give you one. Give me the other one. Exactly. Ribonucleic acid. DNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxygenated. Sometimes the words just make sense. But those are 2 acids.
So life is made up of acids, pretty much.
Life substances. Acid does what? Like in high concentrations, when you throw something in acid,
It burns.
it bubbles. Stick your hand in some sulfuric acid and watch what goes down. But yeah, that's what it's all about. That's why you don't want to be too acid, you don't want to be too alkaline. You want to put proper substances in your body and let your body handle the rest. That was in the disclaimer when we started. Your body will control that for you. Your job is not to give it either too much or too strong of a punch of one or the other. If we drink bleach, you'll probably die, especially if you get enough of it. But there is an amount of bleach you can take where you won't die. There's an amount you can take where you won't feel nothing because your body can convert bleach. So I got water cycle, water movement here. I'm gonna show you a few slides and then I'm gonna tie them. Water, forest and soil, mineral creation. This is a huge one today. This is the reason why a lot of people get sick right now. They have no idea where the minerals come from. Anybody know? All right, put it up there. That's where it comes from. What happens when a volcano spews? What's the hot stuff coming down? Lava.
Molten rock.
What's the lava? It's molten rock. What is rock? Mineral. So look up guys like Joel Wallach. You're like, oh, we got minerals, we got 92 minerals, we got this mineral. We talked about the sea moss earlier. It's got minerals, minerals, minerals in it. The volcano lets out the molten lava. You live in an atmosphere that's going to cool that down one way or another. The winds are going to hit it, it's going to go into the water, it's going to cool it down. If it's in the water, what does the water immediately have? Right. On some of the bottles you get, it's not just alkaline. What else does it show you it has in it? Yeah. Yeah, it tells you how many minerals in it. Dissolved solids is what it says on the back of your bottle. So from mineral creation, that gets spewed out on the earth. The winds hit it, falls into the water. Water can rise a little bit, and then we go into the water cycle. So what I'm going to start talking about now, and then, what time is it? Because we'll take a little break in a second.
355.
3:55? All right, I'll go through this and then we'll take a little break. So, let me get this board together. Paper towel work better than the eraser. All right. Water cycle. We all learned the water cycle back when we were in school. So, all the minerals are falling into the water. How do we move the water around? Give me one of them. How does water move around in the atmosphere? Give me one of them. Steam. What do they call it in the water cycle?
Evaporation.
If we evaporate it, where's it going?
Up to the atmosphere.
To the clouds.
Upper atmosphere to the clouds, and then it does what?
Right.
What's the term for it when it's up there?
Condensation.
Condensation. No, when it's up there. Who said it? Condensation. 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 Condenses. That's what condenses. Then it.
Precipitation. Precipitation.
And then the last one is called, most people don't care, but what's it called? It's called, the last one is called runoff. There you go.
Wow.
And rivers.
Everything in the world uses water. The body ain't hydrated, it's dead. Ain't no water on Earth. The Earth is dead. Everything uses water. If you start studying science to how life was created, it's going to start with what they call plasma, which is like a mineralized water, which means it's electrified, right? Because all the minerals have like charge amounts and stuff in it. So we go through all the steps. Our job is to spread the water around the planet from one place to another. When it does that, and there's minerals in the water, it evaporates, goes up, so we get the liquid part. It condenses in the clouds. We get rain. That rain is in a huge area, which means it's hitting all the soil on the ground, right? So the rain is hitting. That gets wet automatically, so that's a given. Here's the part that a lot of people don't pay attention to. They be like, oh man, it was so bad they got hit with flood. If there's minerals in the water, and when rain comes down, there's no minerals really coming out of the clouds. I mean, unless you're talking about, what's the thing, chemtrails everybody's so hyped about, right? Unless you're talking about that. The water comes down, but when the minerals go in the water, and the water level rises and it washes over the soil, that's how you get mineralized soil. So when they tell you, ain't no minerals in whatever so far, all the minerals is in the water. So you're supposed to protect the water. Is our water protected right now?
No.
Now, you can get a drink out the school kill if you want, but it's not. So that's how we get that. And then after we get the minerals in the plants, we're going to start creating plant bodies. So let me erase this and give you how you get your mineralized food that you're supposed to be eating and why you can't get it out of pretty much anything else. Or wherever else you get it from, it's already in there, right? So we get colorful each other. We got our plant, right? Just like we had up there. And then we got our root going down into the soil. Now let's explain what's going down below here. Plant itself doesn't just naturally take something up. What happens when you leave an apple half bitten out? What color does it turn?
Brown.
What's the other term for that?
Oxidation.
Oxidation, right? Oxidation happens to iron. That's how it turns into rust. So it does that for a reason. Anything natural on Earth will always recycle itself. That is very important. Anything natural recycles itself. If it does not recycle, it does you no good. So if they be like, Twinkie, hey man, them Jones last forever. Nothing go wrong with them. That's a problem. Because that means it's going to sit in you and ain't nothing going to happen with it. And even if it comes out of you, now you just passed it to something else that can deal with it. So now, what happens is when you eat something, let's go further. When you leave a fruit sitting out long enough, what shows up?
Fruit flies.
What happens when we eat? Don't we gotta get rid of it?
Yeah.
So you know what happens. Fruit flies start coming out, start eating stuff. So now that apple over time is gone. You're gonna have a little smell in your house, of course, but the apple gonna be gone after a while. Fruit flies gonna be flying around. If there were no houses or anything to let them in, we didn't spray them and kick them out or nothing like that, they gotta go somewhere. When they gotta go to the bathroom, they do what we do. I don't know if they be flying and dropping stuff off. They might, but they land on things and do it anyway.
Right. What about honey?
Honey? They say that honey never goes bad. But I tell you one thing, you don't want to eat it if you leave the jar off too long.
Right.
Because most of the time, it won't if you don't oxygenate it. If you keep closing the lid, it's dense enough to hold on to its structure longer. So that's what the thing is about honey. So honey's a good thing to have around.
Change color after a while. It gets like darker, but they say it never goes bad. It does get dark.
Usually when it's being cultivated, it does get darker. Because the darker one is actually more nutritious. And that's why when people tell you like, oh, take a tablespoon of some local honey and it'll get rid of the allergies. It's very nutritious because the color is very dense. The lighter ones ain't as strong as the darker ones.
Wouldn't honey dry out after a while? Honey will dry out after a while if you let it out.
Well, if you like, let's say, you know, sometimes you eat it off the spoon and sit it down. Well, if you got it out there, if you leave it out there long enough, something's gonna come, eat it, and fly off, it's gonna bring it somewhere. It's gonna do the same thing we do, because things have to turn over. But they don't just turn over in nature for nothing. One thing feeds another. So you got your little buddy to fly right there, right? You got your buddy to fly. And just so y'all know, when flies land on you, they already tasted you. That's how it is. Yeah, their feet actually taste you. So when you creep everybody, you already know, we see why. The original name for fly is Beelzebub. You probably heard that in the Bible, right? So that's where that came from. Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, that was the original devil if you go back in your information. So good old fly comes, he drops down here. Everything he's eaten, he starts crapping it down into the soil. And here's the funny thing. While he's doing that, down here in the soil, we watched, when we've had that flood, right? What was in the soil already from the flood? Minerals. But the minerals are rock form. And if the minerals are rock form, what happens here is, when they go to the bathroom, is that an alkaline or acid substance? And what does acid do to things? It can break them down. So if acid can break them down, it breaks the metal down. So anyone who is really good and looking for supplements for themselves, there are two supplements that really good people run into. It's two of them. It's called humic and fulvic acid. When the little bacteria, flies, whatever you call it, eat something that was left out in the atmosphere, which is why they're always flying around your food, they look for dead food. So if it's flying around your food, you got a little bit of a problem. And if you're having a barbecue, what's always flying around your food? It's dead food. They're trying to do what they do. They come, they eat it, they take it outside, they defecate. And then there's other little microbes inside of there, they eat that. And they keep eating things, and eventually all that acid that comes out is these two acids, humic and fulvic acid. Those acids turn these metals into liquid. When they become liquid, plant throws it up.
And just like alluding to the whole recycling thing, you know, let's say like, take your dog out for a walk. You know, the dog poops, like, you know, it spills out its feces. What are the first that are on, you know, in one?
Dead substance.
Dead substance.
But here's something. Anybody notice what a cat or a dog does after they go to the bathroom on the ground?
Dirt over it.
They do sniff. That's funny. They cover it with dirt. You'll see a dog walk in front of it. Cats do it too. When you have the litter, cats will go over it. First of all, they don't want to smell it. But the fact they don't want to smell it, they're doing it, they helping it out. Because all that's going to do is fertilize the soil. Are they really helping us fertilize the soil if they're eating something that you don't eat?
Yeah.
That's how you get acidic soil. So we go out there. You ever wonder why we don't recycle our own feces? No, I said we get the horse manure. We get the horse manure, right? Yeah. Why don't we recycle our own?
We're not eating live food. We eat dead food.
You eat bad food? Bad food comes out. What's the name of the gas that's coming off of that you smell? There might be a little bit of that in there, but methane gas. That's methane gas. That's actually a big part of what cows are doing when they be farting and belching and all that stuff. When they do that, they're breaking up the ozone layer. That ain't just people dumping stuff. This is why when you walk out in the sun, you be like, oh my God, like, you can't handle this. Because what's happening is without that ozone layer, it's not buffering it. And the less melanin you have, the more you're gonna feel it. The less you've gone out into the sun, the more you're gonna feel it. Because to an extent, what you eat is what you're becoming. If there's a lot of acid substances in you, and the sun can pull that out, which is why you start sweating, and all that infrared light coming in, some people walk out in the sun and they be like, man, when I go out in the sun, I feel sick. It's a detox effect. Heliotherapy was an original therapy. So, first key point, if you're gonna heal yourself, you absolutely need the sun. There's nothing you can do about it. Oh, I take vitamin D supplements. Two problems with that. Every time I ask people who take them, they be like, yeah, it'd be like 400 IUs. I'm like, you dark skin, you need like 5,000. And you can go way above that. There's some people who deal taking 100,000 IUs. But medically, they'd be like, yo, that's dangerous. You gotta match that up with the vitamin A, and look, the dude was living that vitamin D. So his bones start going to crust, and you know, the beatles stop working. He wake up in the morning, lady like, let's go, and he like, I can't do this. Get at you later when I figure this thing out. But that's pretty much it. The package that you're getting it from is where all the carbon exchange is going. You gain oxygen from the plants, you let out, plants take in, and let out. There you go, that's the exchange. There's always an exchange going on. So all that, you ate something, cracked it out, flies came, bacteria came, little worms came, all that is cultivating minerals to make it into this plant. Last point, then we'll go to break. Even if I miss something, we'll go back to it. But last point. The interesting thing about plants, you know how you be living in a situation and you be like, man, people be living in nuclear plants, they be dying and stuff like that. Who actually manages to survive? They can't run. This is one of your first signals on how to know how to survive your environment. The plant figured out something you don't. If you have no affinity with the plant, meaning you don't eat it, you don't get what they got. Because not only are you exchanging nutrients and gas and helping each other out, that is called information.
Plants and roaches.
Information. We're exchanging information, which is why all the words with these letters on the front, which is also used for light, is this. Definition. Information. Everything that got I-O-N has to do with an exchange of light. Imagination. My image nation. My image nation composed of ions, composed of light. Definition. Words of light. Everything that got I-O-N in it is some form of light. So just check that out, think about all that stuff like that. We are going to take a 10-minute break, right? And then, let's see what I got. This is a cool one, I'll leave that up there. Just know what it is. Nature got them answers that you look for. I'm gonna leave that up there.
We're angels, some mighty and some meek, and we're sent down from the heavens to achieve a destiny. Yes, we're angels, and we seek our own reproof, and we represent the same God who sent His only Son for you. Yes, we're angels.
All right, this part is going to be important for most people. It's going to be very simple, but I'm going to start explaining the body parts to you. Even the ones that most of the time people don't understand. The doctor will tell you they're redundant and you don't need them and all that stuff like that. Let's get them out the way. Let's see what color I'm going to use. All right. The brain is pretty obvious. I don't really have to say much about the brain, but what you do need to know is anything you take in through your eyes or anything you actually feel, there's going to be a cascade that moves from your brain to tell the body how to react in that environment. That is not something that you will know. That is something your body naturally knows. So what happens is, let's give an example. Dark side of the hands, light side of the hands. There's a reason for that. Light side of the hands can absorb electromagnetics a lot more than the other side, right? So because it can do that, if I were to pick up broccoli the oils on my hand are going to react. You already know that because when you touch laptops and computers, you get oils all over it. If you touch the wrong light bulb, it'll blow in your hand because of the oils in your hand. So we know that that's chemically reactive. So what happens is when you touch the broccoli, that's one way your body can sense what's going on in the environment. When you put it in your mouth and you start to chew it up, and you chew it up good enough, it becomes a bolus, which is like this amoeboid, slurpy, slushy type thing going on in the mouth, which is why you're supposed to chew your food good. Your job is to get that food as chewed and digested as much as possible before it goes down. But we come from the hood, so we get the potato chip, 3 bites, it goes right down the tube. Now the body got mad work to do. That's usually how that goes. So what you want to do is, you start the digestive process very fast. Now, you take that broccoli, you chew it. It goes down into the digestive tract, right? This tube that I got going around like that. These little red fingers you see protruding that I got going in zigzag patterns, that's what they call villi. What the villi do is, as the food is chewed up very well, it goes into real small pieces. They become small enough where these villi can actually grab it and absorb it into your body. From the mouth all the way to the anus is not the inside of your body. You have to know that. That is not inside of your body. Yes, physically we can't see it, but that is a tube running from here all the way out. If you allow something to get through the gut wall, it is now in your body, and it can, Charles, what did you say? I know, we put people on the spot right like, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, just so everybody knows, they are newly married couple. All right, so we're talking about the food going down, right? The tube of the mouth goes to the anus and it is not the inside of the body technically. Meaning, anything going through that tube all the way down is technically a defensive shell for your body. It's determining what it's going to pull in. If you put the wrong thing in there, because remember, even though the body has a defense, there are a lot of that pushing and pulling in the body, in the environment here, right? So what it is the earth produces as many healing items as it does poisons. You put a poison strong enough in that tube, it'll probably burn out your entire esophagus before it even makes it to the stomach. If it's just a little weaker than that, it will make it to the stomach and burn holes in the stomach. Now, anything you put in like, ooh, I just ate a piece of lettuce and it had like a bug on it. If that bug's still alive, it now has a way into the body. So that's why you don't want to destroy the gut point. And anybody who has like ulcerative colitis, I think it is, and all the other gut things that cause you that bad digestion, that's usually the culprit behind that. You're putting things in your body that's tearing the stomach apart over time, and it's creating holes in that villi wall. What happens is this villi wall starts to do this. It erodes in certain places. Now it's openings for things to be absorbed in that shouldn't be in there. Okay? So that's what's going on with the stomach. Now, outside of that being said, anybody tonsils taken out? Nope. 1, 2, 3. So, most people never knew it. Was it ever explained what they were for? You know how they tell you breathe through your nose and not through your mouth when it's like you're in a dangerous situation, you might breathe in and get sick and all that stuff like that? The tonsils is the defense for that. That's the root of the mouth defense. It's connected through the nasal passage and the mouth. It's not just the punching bag like item you see in the back of your throat. The tonsils is actually, it's got like a few different points back there. So when you take that out, your defense for when you breathe in just went down some. Okay? So that's why it's easy. It'd be like, man, they got a cold, man. They look right in your face and you're like, it's over. But that's why that can happen. Like you get sick faster because part of your defense just got taken out. Does it mean that you're naturally going to have issues like you're going to die? You know, the doctor make it seem like I have a compromised immune system. See, this is my thing. If the immune system could be 100%, but it can defend against the environment all the way down to 50%. You said you can't. Who said it?
I said.
Can't hear me? Can you come further up?
No, because I'm talking.
Oh. All right. We good? You good now? Yes, all right. All right. Shout out. School teacher.
You good.
Okay. All right. So where did I leave off?
Tonsils.
Let's talk about the tonsils, right? So that's that purple marks that I made between the nose and the mouth. That's the tonsil area. So that's just the defense that your body has. Just because certain things doesn't happen for the defense of your body does not mean you get to use that whole I have a compromised immune system to have to take every defense the doctor puts out. It does not mean that. There's a lot of defenses in the body and the skin is one of them. There's a reason why you gotta get cut wide enough for bacteria and stuff to get in there unless you put some peroxide, alcohol, iodine, whatever you gotta put on there. There's a reason for that. That's a protective barrier. So, with that being said, tonsils first, the butterfly-like thing in the throat, what is that? That's the thyroid, right? That's where the bow tie came from. That's why we wear bow ties. That's where that inspiration came from. Yep. As we get, that's dead real. Dead real. So when we go down, further down the tube, so we're breathing in. We're breathing in. Number one breathing apparatus is the lungs. Do you know what the lungs look like when it is upside down? It's a tree. So there are things that always point nature out to you. As above, so below. Trees go up in this pattern, lungs go down in that pattern. There's a part of the brain that has that name too. And this is what the name is. Now remember, everything I'm showing you, this video is being recorded. Everybody in here can re-see this video from me. I don't expect you to remember everything, but as I go from point to point, I just want to know you got it so we can move on. If you don't remember it, that's fine. You're going to have all the info you need to go back and check it out again. Pick the parts that's really important to you. You're going to absorb that back. That's normal in a lecture. Because some of us, I'm going on a sidebar here, but everyone learns different. I am a visual learner, so there's a lot of visual aids here. If you talk to me and you see me looking around, my brain is turning it into pictures. I'm a picture person. Some people are words people. When you say it, I hear that. When you touch stuff, I feel it. You're a feeling learner, tactile kind of person, right? So each person has a different learning curve. That's what makes speaking to people so hard. You drawing stuff on the board and somebody in the back falling asleep because you ain't talking. And then when you depending on what you're doing, somebody different is falling asleep. So, it can be a little rough sometimes. But okay, so we got the tree of life, so to speak, but it's not the only one. In the brain, it's called, it's a technical term, but I'm just showing it to you so you know what it is. It's called arbor vitae, and that means tree of life. And when you look it up on your phone, it's going to come up in your brain looking like a tree. There's no denying that. So just so you know, symbols, picture's worth 1,000 words. Symbol is worth 1,000 pictures. So when you see hieroglyphs on the wall, that's what they were trying to point out to people. They have an affinity to nature where a symbol in nature can tell people a lot without having to speak too many words. So that's why symbols were so important. The moment you get to talking about words and creating more ways to say one thing, you're degrading, technically. Because if I walk up to somebody and I smile, you just took in a lot of information about me smiling and walking up to you. But if I walk in a room and they're coming in all extra husky.
That's a lot of information.
You're going to use that information. Right? Reflect, start going off. Start looking for ways out. So, okay. So we got that arbor vitae, brain, and tree of life, lungs. Below the lungs, this area right here, we have our heart. There's a little slice in one of the lungs where the heart sits just off inside of that. The heart is actually closer to one side, which is why when people have a heart attack, they grab at that side. There's a connection going along that heart canal that runs into that arm. So when people have a heart attack, they usually grab their arm. So that's one of the ways you'll know. Okay? So we go further down, we swallow the food. We go down past the thyroid, any gas exchange happens in the lungs. Well, some of it happens in the lungs. But then we come down here, we got the stomach right here. When people say I'm full, it's because the stomach is full. All this down here is not the stomach, that's the digestive tract. It's connected to the stomach. You have what you call stomach. From there it moves into the duodenum. From the duodenum it moves into the jejunum. And from the jejunum it moves into the ileum. Technical terms, but I'm just saying it so you know you heard it before, okay? So, 3 parts of the stomach, each one can do and absorb different things. If it reaches the colon don't just dump things out, it can actually reabsorb water. And if you can't reabsorb water, you're dehydrated. So that's what happens when the colon stops working. And you be in the bathroom like, yo, you coming out?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Hold on. No water down there. Because everything goes from water. We already know what these 2 things on the side are, right? Because I already wrote it, right? And what are these green things coming down into this area?
Urinary tract.
Urinary tract or ureters, right? Those get clogged up, that's some bathroom issues. But there's another tighter point too, where those ureters reach, where you get bathroom issues too. Kidneys, what sits on top of the kidneys?
Bladder.
The pancreas is like right in here. Kidneys here, right on top of it. It's like a pyramid shaped object. It's called the adrenals. Heard of adrenal fatigue? All right. So adrenal glands, adrenal fatigue. So what happens is every time you get stressed and you get that cascade of feeling going on, you're taxing that. But that's what it's there for. The moment you have some sort of stressor, whichever way, the adrenals start to fire off. That's what they call fight or flight. Okay? So when the adrenals fire off, I'm gonna jump a little far ahead. I'm gonna give you some what we call some diagnostics in a way, but I'm not diagnosing anything. But this is what I'm looking at it as. Adrenals fire off, you get a surge of energy. Where does energy come from? Usually if we want energy, what do we eat? Someone said fruit, right? Carbs. So what happens is you get a surge of carbs. What do you need to process carbs? Somebody said it earlier. Close. Pancreas, right? So we got the pancreas, we get this surge of sugar. So we get stressed, right? We get this surge of energy, which is going to sap up a lot of the glucose stores or sugar. Once that goes up, the only way for the cell to take it in is with insulin. Insulin is an instruction that tells the body, yo, got some food for you, take it into the cell. A person with diabetes, like I said, I'm jumping ahead here. I want to give you guys a little something. Because I know people be waiting for that bread. So in the case of diabetes, right? You are already diabetic. Let's say you're already diabetic. You're in a stressful situation, stressful job or something like that. Is that a good thing for you? No. Because it's going to do what? What's going to spike? We know the sugar is going to spike. What hormone is going to spike? Insulin. Insulin. The cortisol does go up. That's part of the stress response. But insulin's going up. And for a diabetic person, that's the reason why stress affects a diabetic person. Because they sitting there trying to lose weight, they're trying to get their life together, but every time they walk in the house, it's like, ew! Insulin spike right away. And what happens is, we'll give you some more illustration, right? This is the vein. This is the blood inside the vein, right? So we got some blood inside the vein. Sugar molecules, right? All throughout it. In diabetic, a whole lot more. Just go like that, a whole lot more. There are cells inside the body, right? There's a little cell there. And what you want to say is, the little sugar molecules is people coming to the party. So they come up to the party like, yo, it's banging in there, I'm trying to come up in there. You let them in the party. So some of the blue comes out to the party. Insulin helps this happen. Now, if you're deep in the scientific language, you'll hear things like GLUT4, which means glucose transporter. But like I said, we're going to stay on the upper level. We ain't go too deep. But what happens is they knock on the door. The cell says, yo, we need that energy. Receptor is there. Insulin escorted in. Okay? So glucose transporter helps transport the sugar into the cell. If the party is full, what's the bouncer going to tell you? Can't get in. So the insulin is not getting in. They call it insulin resistance, right? So what happens? What do you have to do? You got to go back outside the club and keep touring the block in your bloodstream. We're going to keep touring the body looking for a cell to let us in. If it never lets us in, the amount of sugar in the blood goes up. You basically start though with Minister Inky said, turn into a sugar donut. That's what's happening to you on the inside. You're becoming glycated. Sugar is a dehydrator. Now you're dehydrating the blood vessel. This is why diabetes is the #1 cause of heart attacks, because you're drying out this fiber. So if you're drying it out, and normally it's a stretchy thing, you dry it out enough, it can't dilate or stretch as much as it could before, which means you got a lot of tension in a tight space that can't move. So when you got that much happening, if it finally does move and breaks open, now I'm jumping way far ahead, but if enough tension happens here and that breaks ahead, you start getting some hemorrhaging, bleeding, or whatever going on inside your body. So a whole lot, you can just see from that, a whole lot can happen. A whole lot of sugar, a whole lot of dehydration, a whole lot of problems. So that was, your teaser for your disease section coming up. Does that make sense? Anybody else got any questions about the whole diabetes thing? Because I can run that gamut quite well, because I had pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is marked at, they might have changed the number. Anybody know the current number for pre-diabetes? Last I heard it was 6.1 to 6.4, because I know it's officially diabetes is 6.5. They move these numbers up and down in the medical industry. This helps bring in profit sometimes when they do it. Yeah, either, but hold on. It's two sides to the story. One side is, because remember, these numbers come from averages across. So the first question you gotta ask yourself is when they test the population, who they test it? So that's the problem. They can test the population and make that number go up, so that, or make it go down. Because if this number goes down, now you can have diabetes at 5.4. And now almost all of us in this room got it.
What does that number mean?
This is the A1C number, right? So when doctors say they're checking your A1C numbers, that's what it is. So between 6.1 and 6.4, I was at 6.3. My blood pressure number was 166/99. So we know second stage hypertension, but they have these meetings where they change the number. Last I checked, it started at 161, I think, for hypertension. So what happens is my number was that high. Everybody's all panicky. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Mine was not from food. Mine was from lack of sleep. So lack of sleep will cause your numbers to go up because your body's not, remember we was talking about time and emit earlier? We emit a lot of energy. If they never get it back, our body has to tap the stores. And if it taps the stores, it's losing a lot of materials to keep you having energy. So you get more tired, and if minerals are going, the ability to keep these numbers down are going. So again, stress from not sleeping. Because when you that alarm go off, and now you got that little heartbeat, your fight or flight that went off, you got all the sugar in your system. This is one of the reasons why we need to exercise, because when all that sugar goes in the system, only two things can happen. You're either gonna get rid of it, or it's gonna sit there. It's one or the other. Trying to bring it back down, you're gonna have to chill for a long time. And sometimes the job or what's going on at home don't let you chill long enough. So the gym kind of buffers that. All that glucose goes in, insulin goes up. You go in the gym, you puffing and puffing, right? Just to get them numbers down. So it's not gonna solve the problem, but you can buffer it a little bit. You can help your body a little bit. Because at least if you burn all that uptake of glucose and materials into your body, now you can go back and be like, I'm hungry now because I did something with it. But if you say I'm hungry just because I'm stressed, and you got all this adrenaline firing off, you don't even do nothing with it. You just feel like, I'm stressed. I'm gonna eat me some ice cream. Shove that in there, number go right up again. So insulin never stops. Eventually you get insulin resistance, right? All right, so that's one example. That's where my numbers work.
Marvin, again, you want to hear diabetes?
No.
No.
Diabetes type 1 is what you would call, now, two arguments to that one. Diabetes type 1 is the autoimmune condition. The teacher I learned from said he does not know that to happen at birth, meaning the child is not born with it.
Right.
Something happens between that kid coming out of that canal and the first few months, the first few years that induces that. That's what I was taught. I don't have enough information to say that's concrete, but I can understand it because it's autoimmune. Human biology does not live to terminate itself because the first rule of thumb for living in a society is self-preservation. That's why you think about yourself first. That's not necessarily stingy. It's just saying, am I cool before I make sure you're cool? Because if I'm not cool, I'm damaged goods making more damaged goods.
Right.
Your body doesn't, biology does not operate that way. You just have to make people aware of when you're in that situation so we all have a better understanding of each other. Okay? So of course the question becomes, how do I get the numbers down? Eat healthy food, go exercise. Literally, it was that simple. No special food, no special herbs, no nothing.
Why, if all of that insulin is sitting in the blood, in the vessel, why do they give more insulin?
Okay, I'll give you the direct answer why. Most medical stuff is based on the fact, it's kind of insulting and people don't realize it. They're working with their understanding of you without telling you. Studies are based on the fact most people ain't gonna stop what the hell they doing. So what's gonna happen is, you gonna go home, they tell you eat your fruits and veggies, you gonna go home, stuff down more chicken, and all kinds of crap like that. More glucose gonna enter, and it ain't enough insulin for that new glucose. So, sugar numbers go up. They inject you with insulin and drop the sugar number down, but there's more insulin in there. And until you burn that, all of that is gonna keep, that glucose gonna keep converting to fat. That's what's gonna happen. So, there's some studies out there that'll say insulin does not make you fat, but then there's another argument that says insulin does. Read the studies thoroughly. You're gonna have to go through a lot. Just one of these points, just this right here, you can go through 5 hours of studying and only get like 10% of it. So the amount of data out there is what's keeping us from healing ourselves. We look at the data and say, it's too much, you get stressed, fight or flight, go off. Like, you don't even want to study now, it's too much information. So the key is just understand how nature works, understand how your body works, and you'll realize the answer is simple. Figuring out how to put the math together in this society is what's hard. Which is why I can give you the simple information, and you'll easily say, because I know the simple stuff, I know what information to chase to solve my problem. The question is, will I do it, and how hard is it to do? Because when I first got here, I was telling people the example about what if you're giving birth to a baby, and now all that holistic information, you got to use it at a moment's notice. Yo, we got to terminate the baby, or you and the baby gonna die. You got information that says if I do this, me and the baby will live. Neither of us have to die. Now you gotta make that choice when the doctor's standing there telling you, you're gonna die. I'm trying to tell you. All right, you don't want to do it, sign this paperwork. You get stressed because they're throwing all this at you. So because what the things we did to heal in the past are not the norm now, the world is working against you. So that stress you feeling, you taking one for the team. Anybody in here who has a disease, when you heal, you literally become other people's hero. I can't stand here and tell y'all I can speak about everything because I had everything. You're gonna think something wrong with me. Like, why did I have everything? I didn't have everything. But the one thing I had made sense to everything else because it's holistic. I can sit here and tell you magnesium is very important. I need you to remember this. But every damn mineral I talk about, I can say that. Because if you're missing one of them, something goes wrong. So that's why all the information is necessary. But if you just explain how the whole chain works, you start to realize, let me just eat all these colors and all these veggies and all this good stuff. I'm not going to have colon cancer at the very least. Because that would mean they have to put something highly toxic in the soil. The plants take it up. Somehow the plants change, aka seedless watermelon, seedless grapes, stuff like that. Stuff that they try and tell you, no, it's not a problem. It's just a young seed and an adult fruit. Bible warned you years ago. Eat the fruit with the seeds.
Yes.
Years ago they warned you. And it's literally, you don't even have to be a Christian. Health stuff is written in every language and every religion. You just have to know where to find it and not just read the story for the story. Okay?
It's really a shame that the majority of the medical establishment thrives off people's ignorance. You know, people's ignorance and people's
But I don't blame the people not so much. It's when the people become awake when I can blame the people. Because what it is nobody asked to be born, but we're kind of happy to live the experience, right? So we thank our parents, we do all that stuff like that. We're glad to be here, but don't shove it in my face because we got, all of us coming out here got a lot to look out for. We coming in years after everything changed. The kids of tomorrow, this won't matter. I'm gonna tell you why about that later, though. You want to jump the
gun? Back in the day, they told you don't swallow the seeds of the watermelon because water might grow.
It might grow in the stomach, right? And you know what the funny thing is? They actually found a case where it happened. That's where it came from. They found a case where somebody swallowed a seed and it started growing in there, but guess why it happened? They swallowed it outside the normal tract. You know, it'd be like, went down the wrong pipe. Like that's where that comes from. But what it is like, for instance, here's an example. The reason you eat grape with seeds is because you ever notice there's a fine powder on the outside of grapes? That's like a yeast-like substance. When you eat the seeds, it negates that. So when you don't have seeds in there, you eat the grapes, you get the benefits from it, but you get a little yeast going in there too. So just keep that part in mind. There's a reason that things have to be whole when you actually eat them. Okay, other body parts, right? I was talking about so I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. We know what the heart's for. The stomach. When the stomach gets full, that just means you just ate food. When we say the food has digested, it just means that it's been broken down into smaller pieces and now it can move through the rest of the digestive tract. It does not mean it's out of your body. One bowel movement does not mean that you detoxed your body. It doesn't work like that. Because you've got 30, 40, 50, 60 years of chicken going on the inside of the stomach. That takes time to break down, okay? So, okay, we got the liver. The liver is the enzyme factory. The liver is also the reason you detox. I don't care what detox you go on, if your liver does not work, detox ain't gonna really work.
Colonoscopy doesn't get rid of all that?
Cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
All of it? No.
So it's still, so the scope is in there.
Here's the problem you're gonna have.
Yeah, like the
They have a range when you do that colonoscopy about how well that you do the process. I just had that done not long ago and I just found that out.
And then you look at it and be like,
They have an actual number that's how they know whether you follow the instructions on what they told you to do.
Oh, so
prior
actually,
to.
do they like point it out to you without being ignorant?
Well, they have it on the
This is how
information
you
when they
did.
give it to you, the results.
Thanks. That's good enough experience.
So now, like, is that the reason why like colonoscopies, like, they could be like very painful because it's like a tube. It's like forcing it out like, at an accelerate.
We'll just make it real simple. That's something you naturally would do if the health paradigm did not exist.
Yeah.
Hold on, who's saying something?
sorry, he's talking about an enema, not a
Enema,
colonoscopy.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Enema, yeah.
But I always ask this question. Does it naturally happen in nature? You walk
Colonics,
somewhere in
yeah.
nature and something just gets shoved up there and starts pulling things
Yeah,
out.
colonics I meant to say.
Right. Does that happen naturally in nature, or does that only happen because the medical establishment exists?
Right.
That's the question you have to ask. Can it have your body? We have been here for, according to science, millions of years. The medical establishment is apparently the greatest and most established now. Now, when you talk to them, they'll be like, we're living longer than ever. Yo, that's the same as saying this movie sold more than other movies, knowing that the last movie to hold the record, there was like 6 billion people on Earth. Now there's 9. To say it sold more than ever, you can do that just by having more people on Earth. That doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the dynamic. Yeah, you can run the statistics and say percentage-wise, we can see that it matches. Okay, you can have that argument. But at the end of the day, you can be tricked with words easily. And that's why I read studies for defense, but I really don't cater to studies for my own body. Because studies are making a point to make a system work. It ain't to make me work. And that's the problem that I have with that. So what happens with the colonoscopy, which is weird, they probably do like an electrolyte balance after it's done. Do they give you like an IV to rebalance fluids and all that, anything like that?
They just
Really?
take probiotics.
Okay, so there is some follow-up, because I'm like, you're not going to shove tons of hydrogen into somebody's body, pull a bunch of stuff out and think that their electrolyte levels are going to remain balanced. That's not what happened. They got to keep shot.
That's a colonic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, colonics.
Let's do this. Somebody give the definition of both. Tell us the process.
Well, I know the colonoscopy, all they do is look for polyps.
Right.
Yeah.
They send a scope.
And the colonics is the flushing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that right. So we want to have that out there so that people get the clarity before we move forward, okay? So colonoscopy, you're looking for the polyps, basically checking for things cancerous to make sure you're all right down there. Colonics is the flushing part we're talking about.
Yeah.
Correct. So we want to make sure we get that part straight. So all I was looking at is when I hear them say they're doing it, I understand why they're doing it. I'm not a total, go to the doctor. I'm not one of them dudes. I'm not. There's a reason you have to understand both. You got to protect yourself and you got to know when to listen. But if you walk into a doctor's office and they be like, so what's wrong? No. All right, we're going to run some tests and run some tests and run some tests. Yeah, they made mad money running the tests. You probably just had, some poison ivy in your skin. They ran like 6 tests for that, made thousands of dollars on that. All because you didn't know. You're not going to ask any questions, and they just getting some money off of it. They're like, all right, we're going to run these tests. Now they run the test, they recommend something for you. Made like 20 G's on you. All you had was a little poison ivy. It was like, put all that cream on there, you good. Like, you ain't know no better. It's good to know something so you can at least go in there, we're going to run this test and that test. Why? And they looking at you like, man, you don't even know what you got. Why do you care? Like, you see what I mean? So it's a give and take when it comes to it. I think they're excellent when it comes to surgery. I think they're excellent when it comes to diagnostic testing. But treatment, no. When I hear treatment, that means we're going to show you how to live with it. Like, I don't want to live with something I don't like. Right, I don't want to live with it. Because, you can make that decision for yourself. All right, so brain, tonsils, thyroid. Did I explain much about the thyroid?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I gave a little something about that. All right, we got the lungs, gas exchange, oxygen out, oxygen in. So what happens is when the oxygen comes in, we were talking about electricity earlier, there's an electric thing going on with oxygen, so you take that in, get a little breath, get a little energy, right? Then the oxygen gets depleted in the blood, and whatever's left comes back out. That's what you're breathing back out. We got the heartbeat. Remember in the beginning we was talking about the universe, the single verse, which is the sound, vibration. The heart has a beat. Keep everything on track. You have a personal heartbeat. They can use that to actually check your vitals and everything if they want to. The way they can test the strength and the electricity in the heart is called a squid spectrometer, is what it's called. So they have a way of checking how much electricity you pump through it. The stronger the electric charge, now I need you to connect this with what I talked about earlier about the universe and electromagnetism. The stronger the electrical output your body gives off, meaning electrical foods, from being in electrically high environments, from grounding, meaning taking the shoes off and putting your feet on natural ground, things like that, raises the electric voltage of your body, gives off a stronger magnetic field, which causes you to have a stronger affinity for your environment around you. These are things unseen.
A heart murmur.
You said, what's a heart murmur? Irregular beat?
So that's normal?
No, it's
No. Everyone has a standard beat. Any way it changes, we can give it a bunch of different names. Atrial fib, we can call it heart murmur, we can call it give me another one. Who knows another one? Right. So you got all these different types. No matter how you look at it, it's an irregular heartbeat. Your body beats a certain way, so that your body says, "This is the beat we're gonna give you." When you in the club, that's your beat. That's what makes you dance. That's what the heart's doing for you. They can read your heartbeat. When that goes off sync, your body goes off sync. Things start to happen. Something's wrong. I'm feeling more fatigued. I'm not sleeping as long as I did. I feel cool, but something's wrong. Sometimes you can't tell, sometimes you can tell. But all you know is, when you have something wrong with the heart, the beat is off. And you're talking about one of the strongest organs in the entire body. When that goes, you go. When the brain goes, you can still be alive because of the heart. You just don't know what the heck's going on.
Just nerves. Just nerves. Like, when you cut the head off of a chicken, it's still very much alive, right? It's just nerves that.
It's just sitting there.
It just, yeah.
Yep.
So there are certain foods you can use to help with the electricity in the heart?
If the food is alive, which means it came from nature, then you'll be alive. If the food is dead, you'll be dead. So the one thing with all this being said that we can keep simple is, if you eat things alive, you'll be alive. You eat things dead, you'll die. How long it takes is where people try and find little fillers to make themselves feel better. Sorry, these things happen to people. It's genetic. It's all these things. Yes, sir.
Cooked food kills the food, it brings energy.
Depends on how you cook the food. Some things can awaken the enzymes a little bit more. Because the moment food is alive, it's by, okay, everyone steamed something before you, right? What happens when you over steam it? What happens to the color? A lot of stuff inside of it that leached into the water. People be trying to drink the water burnt. Like, I'm like, sitting there with the hot water, you try and drink it, like, yeah, I'm trying to get the green out of it.
So that's what we call cotton.
Yeah. So theoretically, it's better. You're better off eating like what? Like close to a rare steak than it is
in this day and age, raw food by far will have the most nutrients in it. Raw food. However, some people's digestive tract can't break down raw food very well.
Yeah.
So if you steam it, you loosen up the proteins and the enzymes, which is why you'll see broccoli turn very bright green. And if you keep going, it turns brown and then it gets dull.
Oh, yeah.
So you took the life right out of it. But when you steamed it, you made it pep up. So steaming helps. Some herbs, if you cook them, you release some serious carbohydrates, like aromatic herbs. You ever cook lemon inside of garlic or inside of olive oil? You'd be like, what? Because you just infuse one thing into another. Like onions absorb things, which is why when you cut an onion, you don't want to just leave it sitting out. It's absorbing whatever's in the atmosphere. So if somebody got stinky sock over there, you cut that onion, you be like, smell like onions now. I don't smell the sock no more. That sock, that smell of that sock is letting off a gas, and that onion is absorbing it. So the moment you cut that onion, you need to get that thing right to work. That's why I usually cut onions last.
And tomatoes, yeah.
Has a lot of layers too.
Yeah, usually it's I forgot what the name of the thing is inside of it, but some things have like this thing to it, this zing. It's like garlic, ginger, things like that. When they touch things, you can smell it on people's breath. It's like real strong. So if you chew ginger, you chew garlic, people be like, woo! Like you got the aromatics coming off something hard. Those type of things can absorb gases that's in the environment. So you put like a clean cotton sock in your refrigerator. Layla Africa said this. If you put a clean cotton sock in the refrigerator, it'll absorb all the smells in there. So it's different ways of doing it. You just got to make it baking soda. Yep. So let's get some more parts. All right, spleen. How many people know what spleen does? Because when you get that joint taken out, they'll be like, yeah, it's redundant. Take that spleen out, you just tank a lot of your immune system. That's the backup shell for red blood cells and white blood cells. So if something's attacking your body close to the stomach area or anywhere where that spleen is, it's easily able to say, yo, send in the troops. The moment you take that out, whatever is kind of formed out of the bone is what's in there. So that's one of your backup systems. The second one is why I got this little piece down here. Y'all know what this is? It's near the bottom of the long intestine. That gets taken out. But that also is a backup system, except it works better near the digestive tract. So when crap is going on in there, that can unleash the army, so to speak, and keep things in your stomach all right. So when the appendix comes out, you're losing immune system. Appendix immune system, spleen immune system, tonsils immune system. Secondary backups, they're very strong.
Why do they say it's not needed?
You're going to find the word vestigial. when you look it up. Vestigial means something used to work, don't work anymore. Some of these things, when you get older, they don't really see any activity. So they say it's kind of redundant, back up, you don't really need it. Does make you feel better, don't it? You didn't really need it, we can get it out of there.
What is that on how big you don't need and how old?
There is nothing in the body you don't need. Nothing. If it's a backup system, it's there for a reason. We was just talking about when we got here. The projector in here got broken right before I came. I made sure that we had a connection. She's in the back right now recording. Yeah, get on it.
We do meetings LLC.
Because I contacted her, we had a backup. I could have came here and we would have been doing everything off the whiteboard. Or I could have turned it, well, they had a TV set up. We could have linked this to the TV and we'd have had a big TV screen or whatever. But this is much better. So, all right, so backups. Spleen, white blood cells, red blood cells. Appendix helps out the stomach area, which is why it's tied to the bottom of the large intestine area. So that gives you a little bit of backup in terms of what's going on in the stomach. So that keeps people from having stomach issues as much, because now you got something there. When you keep dumping bad stuff in, even when you're a child, it's even worse. You kill that off. Because it's a cascade of stuff, and the body hasn't even been old enough to really know what's going on in its environment. So the moment it doesn't know that, all this cascade of stuff, it's like the appendix come out, child like 8 years old, and then it's like ice cream, chicken, pizza, chicken patty, Popeye's chicken, Chick-fil-A. You got all this stuff going on, right? So you're putting all that in a child's body very early on, and none of it has, it's all dead food. So what happens is that gets overwhelmed and inflamed, and they're like, we gotta get that out of here. That's what she was feeling. If we let that explode, everything that was taken care of, right, blood cells, all that crap like that, internal hemorrhaging, because it just burst right outside and near the digestive tract and inside the body. And this is like a crucial digestive area, so when that bursts inside of there, that's why people die from it. The spleen is attached to anemia. What happens is when you don't get folate, when you don't get a couple B vitamins. So you got folate, you got B12, and you got iron. If the folate and the B12 are not existent, what happens is the red blood cell doesn't mature and it gets really big. And it can't move through the capillaries as well, so it starts to jam up inside the spleen. When it jams up inside the spleen, you get what the doctor will tell you, yeah, it looks like we got some splenomegaly there. Splenomegaly, giant spleen. You gotta take that thing out. So that's why they take that out. So we did pancreas, intestines, kidneys, we did the adrenals on top, we talked about the lungs, thyroid, all that. Green right here, what's this green thing right here?
Gallbladder.
Gallbladder, what's it do?
Oh, the liver, the bile, the liver.
Oil and water don't mix, right?
Nope.
So you put bile salts in it. You get that taken out, there's your answer, and it does. You take that out, oil and water does not mix. That's why they tell you to drink prune juice, it helps the mixture happen. So if you get rid of your gallbladder, you have to look for foods. You have to look for foods that emulsify fat. And prunes is one of them. Prunes is actually a really big deal too. It's got boron in it. A lot of people don't know about boron. It protects you from radiation, and if you need to raise your testosterone levels, you need boron. It is a guarantee that when you take in more boron, your testosterone levels go up. Think fibroids, think low T in male, think impotence in male. Okay, so boron. Look at boron. And again, prunes, prune juice, figs, probably dates, things that got kind of that kind of consistency going on.
Raisins?
Don't trust the raisins too much because they process them. Like the blocks of sun raisins, I learned years ago, they was talking about when they process them, there was like, so understand, everything that can be shopped for has regulations. So there's like a certain amount of fly droppings and rat hairs and stuff that can be in things. Raisins is one of them that was kind of high in there. So for that reason, raisins don't kind of get thrown in the bucket.
FDA approved, FDA approved.
You said prunes. Is there good and bad sugar? Because there's sugar in prunes.
If they put sugar on the prunes, you got a problem.
No, but I'm saying prunes have sugar,
Yeah, fruits like
No, prunes have glucose.
which is sugar.
There's a particular type called galactose. It's not the same as the technical term sugar. We use that as an exchangeable term. There are 8 essential sugars. The one that exists in that is called galactose. Lactose and glucose combined. So when you hear someone's lactose intolerant, you're not intolerant to the lactose. You're intolerant to the protein structure that's in the milk. So they're giving you something that doesn't have an affinity to your body. They say it's lactose intolerance, but it's a lactose-involved protein. That's what's happening. Yes, sir.
What was that, again, you said about the razors, the problem with razors?
Well, what it is there's rules to anything that sits in like a factory. There's a certain amount of rat hairs, turds, and stuff like that can be in it. It's enough to not affect the population. And best believe if you got a warehouse full of raisins that's a mile long, ain't no inspector checking every bag.
Oh my God.
You already know that. What they're looking for is a threshold, because there's a threshold your body can handle. Y'all ever heard, who heard this term before? 1 second, Randy. This kind of answers all that stuff you're asking about why do they do something, because of this term. Of course, you know that. Anybody heard of this? You ever heard that term before? Kind of an insult, actually. Generally recognized as safe. You put it in your body, it tends to be okay afterward. For the average person, but if you're talking about people who do 40, 50, 60, 70 years of eating chicken, meat, fish, things that are processed, it ain't no longer generally recognized as safe. It's generally recognized as dangerous for you. But nothing is based on long term most of the time. It's based on short term and following instructions. If they say, we can eat the meat, in moderation. Is the meat poisonous? Are we putting anything poisonous in the meat? That meat in the market is red. Did you just kill the animal? No, we had it shipped in 2 days ago. We wrapped it up, it's fresh. When you kill an animal, the meat turns gray almost immediately. No way it turns that red right away. You did something to it. They pump it full of bleaches, chemicals, and they infuse it with carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide will bring the redness back. Okay? You're eating dead food, and most people are trying to justify eating dead food. I'm not going to justify it for you. When I go to a barbecue, sometimes I'll be in there eating a burger with the rest of them, but I know what the hell I'm getting myself into. I tell people that all the time. 80% of the food I eat is plant-based. The other side is friends and family. I can tell you, living in that Philly environment, it is not 100%. You can vouch for this. It's not always easy getting everything you need to eat right. Sometimes you gotta chill. Like, it just ain't gonna be around for a couple hours. I'm just gonna have to wait till I get where I go, get what I'm gonna get. You gotta be like that. The doctors are using your inability to control yourself to prepare you for a future of doing things ignorant. And you help them out every time you justify eating the wrong thing. So when the world keeps advancing a certain way, I'm like, well, it's what we doing as a people. I can play my part all I want. But truthfully, me personally, I care about the community numbers. This is important to me seeing all of y'all here. Because that becomes community. It don't mean I'm expecting y'all to be vegans the next day. It just means that if I want to talk about this stuff and I want to strengthen the way the world looks at the right way to do things, I know who I can slot up next to, who whether they're doing it totally right or not, they'll at least agree. Like, yes, this is what we should do. Occasionally we have this and that. But at the very least, I'm an 80-20. If most of us ate 80-20, that would tank the meat industry immediately. Because it's that big now. That's why the Amazon forest that y'all hear about burning, part of that argument is, good back there? Yeah. Part of that argument is there's some people over there who are trying to clear away to raise more cattle. Because they see more people want meat, want milk, and things like that, so they're going to keep making room for it.
What about fasting, intermittent fasting?
We'll hit fasting now. We'll hit fasting now. All right, so intermittent fasting. So this is what happens. Diabetes, right, is like the front runner of a lot of major diseases. The reason it happens is because insulin keeps spiking. You keep spiking your insulin, you keep putting the wrong thing in your body, eventually you're going to have insulin resistance. You want to lose weight? That has to go first. If that's turned on, losing weight's not happening. Which means if you eat more, you know, you could say, eat 6 meals. You better be burning the hell out of the meals at the gym for that to turn into muscle. Because it's certainly going to turn into weight one way or another. It's going to turn into muscle, or it's going to just have you like, it is what it is, homie. Like it's going to be what it's going to be. All right, so here's the opposite to that. This is the opposite. Remember I was saying, earlier, yin yang, everything works in balance? Those two balance each other. It's a pressure mediation. I said that earlier. Pressure mediation, push-pull. You eat more insulin, glucagon is not being emitted. If you stop eating as much sugar, glucagon comes out because it's saying we need energy, produce sugar. But if there's tons of insulin because there's tons of sugar, this will never turn on because there's too much of this in the body. You have to get rid of that. The rule of thumb is be healthy, then do healthy things. Don't say, I'm gonna go to the gym, but I'm gonna keep eating the bad food. You're helping yourself somewhat, but you're kind of negating the whole action. You don't want to do that. You want to be healthy first. Then everything else falls in line. So you start eating healthy. You know, when they say they always try to attack carbs, like carbs are a bad thing, because people don't separate the carbs. When they're talking about don't eat more carbs to spike insulin, they're talking about bread, rice, processed kind of carbs. They're not talking about fruit and veggies. However, you cannot smoothie a person who has diabetes. You can't do that. You can juice, but you can't smoothie them because it's highly concentrated glucose. The more you take hydrogen out of something, the more you concentrate it. So you're going to get like 10 to 100 times the result. So it's going to spike the crap out of your insulin if you're sitting there like, well, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to just go to fruit. You know, people go healthy route, they want to go fruit. They don't really want the greens, they're going fruit to death. You go in the refrigerator, it's like apples, pineapples, things like that. It's all mangoes, peaches. You're going to see all the sweetest stuff in there because they're trying to maintain the palate on the fruit side. You want to stop the insulin from going up, greens heavy. You can drop medication from 2 weeks to a month. It's almost guaranteed. I don't care if the A1C is 12 because I already know someone who did. So you stop eating high glycemic index food, eventually the insulin levels are so low that there's not enough sugar in the body. Glucagon turns on and your body says, I need energy. Enter keto. This is why keto works. Keto works because in the chain reaction, you have a few different cycles. You have what they call a fatty acid cycle, a citric acid cycle, electron transport chain. What I found is there's a mid-ground to most of them. In the technical term, if you guys want to start studying it and go hardcore, I believe that's how you spell it. Hold up, spell that wrong. The technical term is called acetyl-CoA. All right? Acetyl-CoA. This is like a pit stop for a lot of things that happen. The heavier and denser the food, the more energy it gives. But the reason it does that is because it breaks down into all the other things. So if you eat fat or you eat a protein, eventually it's going to make its way to a form of storage called glucose. One way or another, it's going to go through this chain in the system. You eat fat, your body starts to produce ketone bodies from doing all this and doing all that. But here's the thing, fat don't spike insulin. That's why keto works. That's the cut and dry why it works. If it's not spiking insulin, your body's trying to find a way to process the fat and turn it into energy, which means there's no sugar in the body. It's using something else to convert it, which means it will always regulate you to stay normal. And if it's doing that, glucagon keeps turning on, which means if you're exercising, you're going to start burning fat.
So that's when you reach ketosis, is when that glucagon is turned on?
Ketosis, when you hear osis, is a condition. When you hear osis, that means you went too far. You're poisoning yourself. So you never want ketosis. You're doing a ketogenic diet, nothing more than that. It means that the amount of fat you're eating versus carbs is something like 60, 20, 20, which will be 60% of its fat, 20% of its protein, 20% of its carbs. And you work those numbers in favor of fat. The reason you keep the glucose coming in is so you can have fast sugar. Now, there's one guy, his name is, I'm forgetting the guy's name that I was listening to online, big keto guy. But he tells you, you don't really, he was like, you don't really need no carbs. And I'm sitting there like, strong statement there, buddy. Carbs. But he kind of corrected himself. He was like, well, we're not talking about greens. That's obvious because greens are a form of carb. Because it's got glucose change to make up the actual package that the green comes in. Because really it's not the green that you want. It's what's inside the green. You ever take a leaf and rub it in your hand? It makes your hand wet. That's all the minerals and constituents in it that your body takes in. That's why if you eat a green diet for like a week, you go to the bathroom, you be like, look at that, it's a plant. It's an actual green plant that comes out. I tested it for like a 2-week period, and I was like, oh, they were not lying. Not only does it basically not smell like anything, it's literally all wrapped up cellulose. Because my body took all the nutrients I needed out of it, dumped the carbon part. And why do we dump the carbon part? It's supposed to go back in the soil so that the plants can repackage more minerals. Everything works in a circle. If it does not work like that, it is not nature. But they say, Inky always said he loved the movie Ray. Because he said in Ray, they would say, scratch a lie, find a thief.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what will happen. Somebody tells you something, you start picking away at them hard enough, they get mad when you're getting close to the lie. And they start getting all defensive. Yeah. I don't want to explain all this. You don't know what you're talking about. And you start to catch them. So you turn the glucagon on, which means create sugar. Insulin is on, it means burn the sugar, it's too much of it. So once you use the fat, you go through the keto way and you have more fat in your diet, there's no sugar there to match up with insulin. So it has to convert fat into glucose. And it does this thing like splitting fatty acids, and this goes over here and this goes over there, because fats are used for a lot. They protect the cell wall, fats are used for the brain, so you need fats. Don't anybody tell you don't need fats. But when they say eat fats, that don't mean go get the pork fat and start going in.
So what are the good fats? What are the good fats?
Like good fats, I always start with the basics. Avocado, coconut, olive. Those are the ones we can easily find. We start going beyond that, it get a lot harder. Like if I ask you to get perilla oil, I know it's sold online. I have no idea where it is locally. And as soon as it starts popping up, it's going to come from places it don't come from, and I got to study that. Because people hear a catchphrase because we got lives to live. I don't expect everybody to know what I know about health, what my sister probably knows about biology, what the doctors know about everything. We can't. We all got to specialize in something. While I'm talking about this, another person's saying, yo, you're not a lawyer, listen to me. And I'm going to listen to them. So we all got a way of feeding things back to each other, because that's nature, right? We got to keep doing that thing. So I go get the information, I do my best not to harm you, you do your best not to harm me. Mistakes are made along the way. That's why it's called medical practice, because the doctors know they make mistakes along the way.
You can also get it from nuts too.
What?
Like
Walnuts.
Yeah.
Cheese too, right?
Good call. Walnuts. Yeah, walnuts is good for the brain. That was like an ancient, I think, Ayurvedic medicine system thing. You could look at the food and tell what it'll do for you. They told you if you like cut the carrot, it looked like an eye, so you get vitamin A, which is for retinol, which is used for the eye. A cucumber looked like a bone, so if you ate that, you got calcium, which is true. You get calcium from the I said cucumber, celery. Yeah, celery. Macadamia nuts. Don't know. Didn't study them enough. I do eat them though. I am approving of them. Like me, the ones. Which one do I avoid? I'm not a sunflower seed fan. There's actually kind of a back and forth relationship between sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are known for raising your testosterone. Sunflower seeds are known for raising your estrogen. So if you have an estrogen imbalance problem, like fibroids or something, you don't want to be eating sunflower seeds. So just keep that part in mind. If you have low T, you might want to raise the amount of pumpkin seeds you're eating and chew them well, because that coating, when they're not sprouted in, you kind of sit them in water and let them break apart a little bit so you can digest it, get that undigested coating off of there. If you don't actually do that, then you have to chew it real well and break up that coating on the top that like protects the plant from things invading in it. Because plants got protective mechanisms too. And if you have no, yes.
Sorry, no. It was a different question.
Oh, okay. So with the I think I want you to ask. That's how it happens.
Sorry. I was just gonna ask, what are good sources of plant-based protein if you have an estrogen imbalance? Like
if you have an estrogen imbalance, look for male plants. They come in male and female form. I'm not good at that. One thing I'm not doing, I'm going to give you a general overview of herbs. But I'm not the guy who's going to tell you how to mix a bunch, but I know what probably the average person who studies health knows. Like I can say things like red kale will give you iron, so will burdock root, so will yellow dock. Red clover is used to help out the bloodstream. Hawthorn berry is used to help the heartbeat. But you're not supposed to take things one off. Like if they say you need iron, you don't take iron. You have to take something that has a collection of things. The problem with doing things in the pharmaceutical world is they don't work like the body does. If I find a plant that they get Advil from, they extracted the part that gives the effect of Advil, but they didn't keep in all the other stuff that balances you out after it's digested, which is why they like pop these every such and such, call me in the morning. So they got to give you a regulation. That's how you make money off of it. I'm gonna give them the effect. Yo, I just am depressed right now. A little lithium. They give you some lithium. You chilling for a while. Then eventually it starts going down. So every such and such, take a little bit more. And what do my cards? I put some cool stuff from a book called Minerals for the Genetic Code. You want that book in your library if you can. I can show it to you on my, actually later on I'll pull it up on the internet, but check this out. Everybody knows that depression medication has lithium in it. Most people know that. But I'm looking at Minerals for the Genetic Code. This guy like toured a long time ago. His name is Richard Ulrich. Rubidium is the balance to lithium. You have to have it regulated if a doctor's going to give it to you, but you can ask for rubidium. If the lithium levels are low, which causes a depression, and the rubidium levels are non-existent, you're going to have some type of depressive problem going on. Especially if you went through something very shocking. If that adrenal gets hit hard enough, then you push beyond the body's threshold. And we know everything has a threshold. Remember, there's a balance. If you break the balance, you're going to cause a chronic problem. That's where autoimmune disease comes from. Most of these things are not always the person's fault, but once they become knowledgeable about it, they got to do something.
So yeah, when, like you're saying, like when it gets to that point, you're jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Maybe. Not everybody's depression says terminate. Some people's depression says terminate because they can't find, what you're trying to do is you're trying to find either a meaning in life or a defense for an insufficiency.
Okay.
It's one or the other. But here's the thing. They tend to have a better mindset of how the world works than the average person does. They're literally walking around trying to find something that doesn't really exist on earth anymore, and that's the affinity to nature. Because I know this for myself. I can't say for everybody. But if you go to, have you ever felt depressed outside of thinking about work anyway when you went on vacation? Unless maybe you threw your money on the table in Vegas and lost it all. Maybe you did feel depressed. But I'm just saying in general, when you planned a vacation, as it got closer to the day, you weren't as depressed. You felt a lot better. And then you go there and it's like, there's palm trees and there's water and it's like birds making chirping noises. No boss hollering, no kids crying, nobody arguing with you, and you just like, and start breathing. That's what people do with cigarettes. The moment they breathe in that smoke, it automatically arrests a lot of this going on. So all that fidgetiness, you put something non-biological in there, and it hits it, and it's like it asphyxiates the system. And that's why now you're calm. But very quickly it goes away. You do it again to asphyxiate the system, which means it kind of binds it up so you can't get fidgety and shake. And then you breathe out. It's helping me breathe. So if you look at the root of a person's problem and you see what their solution is, you have to find the correct solution. Otherwise, they'll choose the best thing they can find. I'm stressed a lot. The stress will become chronic and cause problems. The cigarette helps that. So I don't bother.
So the cigarette's just a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. It's not going to solve the problem, but it'll make me feel better until I solve the problem.
Yeah.
Right. What are we looking at? What are we looking at? What are we looking at on time? It's almost 5:30. Are ready for another break? We don't want to keep going.
Keep going, Keith.
Keep going? All right, let's keep going. All right, so I'm going to speed my way along. Let me move through some slides because we went through these, and I don't mind entertaining questions. That's why the slides. Black or white, let's go through this a little bit. There are 4 versions of this, 4 types of oculocutaneous. What people are talking about between white and black, and they not sun people and all, they all this and that, this is what they're talking about, oculocutaneous. It means that the skin has no pigment in it, which means it has no affinity to the sun. Earlier I showed you, let's erase this. I'm going to show you a principle and then I'm going to keep moving on. All right? So we got hot, we got cold climate, right? Hot climates have more sun. We know that. We usually go on vacation in those climates. Cold climate doesn't. Very cold. What's the reason melanin exists?
Protect you from the sun.
Protect you from radiation. It's not really from the sun. You need the sun. Everyone needs it. The problem with them having it is, this is what they call an autosomal recessive disorder. You're born outside of balance in some capacity. When you get the sun, which is really what you need for long living on Earth, gives you cancer, tumors, things like that. But this is the extreme of that. Nowadays, we got all kinds of shades. So what you call the average white person is not an albino. An albino person doesn't really have any protection from radiation, so the sun damages them fast. So the darker you get, the more radiation, the more vibration. We was talking about that earlier. The sun gives off all of that. You can artificially create it through nuclear plants and stuff, but the sun gives off radiation. Too much of that, for a body that can't accept that much, the skin will start to burn from the radiation. And that's what causes the skin and stuff like that. Were we talking about this the other day? We were talking about, does a dark-skinned person need suntan lotion? And my sister said they do. And I was like, you know what? I said no at first. But then I was like, you know what? Yes, they could. And here's why. They grow up giving themselves an affinity to a climate with no sun. They start converting their own body by eating bad things, being around bad things, things that don't have an affinity to their body type. So eventually, vitamin D levels are tanking. This is the bad part. But they try and step outside to get that vitamin D quick, and they can't because the body is a self-balancing mechanism. It's like, yo, you ain't been outside in the sun no longer than getting out your car and going in the house. How come you out here for an hour now?
So those people in Africa, they don't have that problem.
Depends. And Africa's been colonized for how long? They're turning that thing into a city.
Yeah.
Think about your average day. You wake up, Sun is already out, so you ain't watch it rise, so you ain't get nothing really for your eyes, nothing really for your skin, because over different levels of the sun being up gives you different things going on in your body. So you don't get that anymore because you're indoor. As soon as you get dressed and shower, you go outside, you step in the car. No sun. You already got on a shirt, hat, glasses, you covered. Like, you good. So you walk in the job, come out when it's dark, or you work when it's dark. And if you work when it's dark, you go home and go to sleep when the sun is out. So do that 9 months out of the year. Maybe you get 2 vacations in the summer where you get like 4 or 5 days of it, and you just keep doing that. Later on, that turns into low vitamin D levels. I ain't got no time for all that. I gotta go to work. What can you give me, doc, to get the numbers up real quick? They know they can't argue with you for what you really need. They'll take these pills and we're gonna see if the numbers come up.
But that's here, I'm talking about Africa.
It's the same thing. If you're in Africa, just because it's a sunny climate, if you still walk out the house when the sun's out, walk indoor, you're not gonna be able to stay out in the sun that long. The reason white people use that is because you're talking before slavery times. This is something where sun out or nothing, we know we get sun. We go out here, work in it, build pyramids, do all this, do all that kind of thing. Well, now you're in a society where anything that gives you an electrical capacity or a sun-like atmosphere or something is demonized. It's too much sun, you can't be out in the sun. Put sunscreen lotion on, and then I turn my UV camera on and flick it, and the sun, what was we saying the other day? We were talking about the suntan lotion, turns you black. You just can't see it. You only see it with a UV camera. So a white person puts on suntan lotion, I switch my camera into UV mode, they're black. So my black skin protecting me anyway?
But part of what you just said, you know, building pyramids and so forth and so on, I've, you know, would be out in the sun a lot for hours and hours, but it was always, in most cases, involved movement. So I have never, ever used suntan lotion. Never.
You got an affinity to the sun. So nowadays, we're so mixed, right? This person's sleeping with that one, sleeping with that one, from here, from over there. Cool, that's what y'all doing. But here's the issue with the whole mixing thing. Now, each case is different when the doctor sees you. Before, it's like, you're from warm climate, all right, check that out. You're from cold climate, check that out. You're in the middle, all right, we're gonna look at these numbers. Now people are mixed. Now that everybody's mixed, you don't know who's in the sun. You can easily now go out there and find like a slightly bronzed white person who could probably stand out in the sun longer than I could. With my body type, I probably should be able to get anywhere from 2 to, let's say, 5 hours from being out in the sun on a regular. A very dark-skinned person could be out there from sun up to sundown with no problem. No skin cancer, no nothing like that.
But again, it seems like the fact that, you know, because I've always played stuff outside.
Right.
So if you did that and you were constantly drinking water, which is so much easier.
You gotta be hydrated.
Yeah, which is so much easier when you're actually sweating. It's much easier to keep drinking water. But it seems like the movement itself kept you from getting burnt.
Right. Because what it is, here's the funny thing. Let's say you got the numbing and you're in the sun all the time. Y'all hear, usually, if you ever learned about Frances Cress Welsing, she was the reason why the Bell Curve book got debunked from William Shockley and all that. Because back in the day, what happened was they disenfranchised us so much, took away our education and all that, they started writing studies about us based on that. And that's where the Bell Curve came from. So when William Shockley wrote the Bell Curve, he was trying to talk on scholarly, like, yeah, well, what we have here in the statistics, it shows that, you know, white people intellectually are so much further than black people and all this like that, and we do this and we do that, and it's like, well, it took a black woman to stand up against him and shut his ass down. So Frances Cress Welsing came out and was like, no, your own studies say we got more fast twitch muscle, brains develop faster, stay out in the sun longer and all that stuff like that. Dude went off to the races, gone. She completely defeated, she killed that kind of stuff. But let me show some more principles about the hot and cold, right? You know, they always say, we were always a hunter-gatherer society. You hear that a lot. Maybe it's true. None of us were alive back then. Frances Cress Welsing. Francis. So, if you're in a warm climate, do you have to search for food?
Not really.
So if it's growing everywhere, how do you get the food? I gather it. Okay? I gather it. If I'm in a cold climate and the food ain't growing, how do I eat? Okay, so just finish the whole thing out. Hunter-gatherer. When the two come together, you get both. The history you're being given starts from when both were working together. So you get hunter-gatherer. But before that, it's black over here, white over there. History always starts when the black people are in slavery. So if you don't go beyond that, you're going to get hunter-gatherer every time. We didn't create the current information we use to spew all this stuff out to one another, which is why I say, look, this is my perspective on it. You can have yours, but I'm just saying, we look at the real way things is working in the world. I'm not quick to take their word for it, but this certainly makes sense. You came from a cold climate, I came from a hot climate. Food was falling off the trees, people were stepping on it. So if food is falling off the trees everywhere, and where you are there is none, you're forced to get up and do that. I'm forced to get up and collect that. The moment things became what we call organized is when it got harder. How you grow tomatoes and this and that at the same time? Well, it can't be next to this. You got to create the rows, and you got to get this over here and irrigate the land, and we'll become more technologically advanced. In Dr. Sebi's book, he said nature always laughed at him because every time he tried to make something happen, step around the corner and be like, "Damn, I didn't even have to make it happen. It was sitting right there the whole time, going wild." Most of the problems is growing wild right around you, and you don't even know it. And they scared you from doing that. Don't touch the plants in your neighborhood. Cat might have pissed on you. The cars drive by and exhaust hit. That's in your backyard. Don't know what happened with that. They scare the hell out of you when it comes to nature. So now you go to the supermarket. Supermarket says like, "Hey, I had some dandelion sitting out in the backyard." I heard you say it. I got some dandelion sitting out in the backyard. I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to go to the market and get the one that came from the other side of the country. And it took like 4 days to get over here. And then I'm going to tell you, it got mad iron in it, it got mad enzymes in it when it's been traveling in the truck for 4 days. There's no way that pulling something off a tree is not going to be stronger than something that was sitting in a truck for 4 days. There's no way.
And you know that's something in the restaurant industry now, it's called foraging. So they just literally go out in the morning, go out to the woods, pick up stuff, and they bring that to the restaurant and put it on the plate.
It could be that simple, right? So this is what you got. And you can carry this concept of hot and cold to anything. You can carry it to religion. The original sun was the sun. They gave a book. You know, people have this argument over Christianity versus this and that. And really, all religions kind of circle the same concepts. You just got to pick the one you're going to be with, right? So what you got is, you got hunter-gatherer. But when you talk about religions, they come over and see you like, son. They get in that joint and it's like, why has God forsaken me? Until the day I get smart when I start working with you and I change the message to match me. Hence the white Jesus concept. The only reason people was putting it up there is because they were leading the society during slavery. So they changed the same message, gave you a different message, and the sun became the sun. You see what I mean? Yes. And they put a nice little story behind it, which is fine. But when you're talking about different cultures, that sun is going to have a different name. Here's a book, if you care. And this is not a book about religion. It just shows you how the whole Father, Son, Holy Spirit thing works in everything. So there's a page on here, I'm not going to try to pull it because I can't pull it fast enough, but it'll say something like Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Vishnu, Shiva, this. And it'll go through each one and show you the 3 big things there. It'll show you the principle of 12. There's 12 disciples. There's 12 zodiac signs. There's 12 tribes of Israel. Like you'll start seeing all these numbers make sense. Where if you just read the book and you're just looking at it as like, it's the Word of God, and you just read it, you keep giving people moral messages. Someone asked me a question a long time ago, like, yo, y'all be in there like every day. When you graduate? Good question. So I went and read the book on my own. Now I don't know the book by heart, but because I read it, like I'm doing all this talking right now, there's no way you'll retain all of it. But in the moment, you're like, I get it. Whether I agree or not, I get it. So with the Bible, it was the same way. One time I read it, the whole thing. Took a long time. You can imagine. And then the second time, all this driving I'm doing, I'm audio booking it. I hear it again. Now when people talk about it, it clicks every single time. I don't need to know it by heart. 2 types of knowledge. Somebody told me this not too long ago. There's 2 types of knowledge. Did you say it, Jim?
What's that?
Did you say it was 2 types of knowledge? Weren't we just talking about that? What you know and how to know where to get it.
Yeah. And experience.
That's exactly how it's said. Yep. So that's kind of how it works. So again, you might have a Muslim step up and challenge you. What does it say in Joshua? And you like, yo, I can't spit it back that fast. You tell me what it say, and I'll ride with you from there. That's just how it works for me. And I'm okay with that, because that's what works for me. Somebody try and challenge me, they be like, no, you got to tell me straight up front. I'm like, you're attacking me. I'm defending. So tell me what you want me to know. Say something, and I'll carry the conversation from there. So when Jim talks to me, he be like, Hey, you be knowing so much about everything. Well, I don't know everything, but things kind of connect when you know enough about one thing. A person who knows about music and gets the right teacher will know everything about health. It'll have a different name. You know, spinal cord is how they came up with the tunes on the piano. That's why they call them organs. They call them organs because they make sounds. I forgot what they call it. Tuning fork? They stick it against one of your organs where the area is. They tap it. If it makes a dead noise, they know something's wrong with it. There's another term for it, but I think that's actually what it is. But they tap that and they hear a dead note because each organ has a note that's associated with it. I don't have that chart. So each one has a different note, and if they hit it and that note falls dead, they're like, there's something wrong with that area. Let's test all the others. And when they get all of them, they start seeing this holistic thing. Like, I'm making an example. Don't take this concrete. But let's say this is C note for the liver, and they tap it and they hear a dead C note. Then they know anything related to the C note in all their studies is going to help heal that. Colors have an affinity to that organ. Dance moves have an affinity to that organ. When people play music, you ever feel better when someone just plays music? You ever feel better when somebody says something to you and you get that surge of energy? Like, wow, that's all I've been waiting to hear. You start feeling better. That's what vibration does. Everything vibrates. Colors vibrate. Music vibrates. When something vibrates, when it vibes with you, it heals you. That's why people be like, I didn't get no medicine. I went to talk to this dude. He wasn't a therapist or nothing, but he said things to me that gave life meaning. And all of a sudden, I go back to the doctor and I don't have cancer anymore. Because the cancer probably came from that person's adrenals firing off from feeling low about themselves. It's constantly stressed. Every time they thought about themselves, they felt like trash. When really, there was a certain way they needed to receive energy from something. And one of the ways you receive a lot of that energy is in the environment. That's why when you go on vacations to nice places, you kind of shut up and just admire. Because you're taking in things that are starting to heal you. So keep that in mind. All right, let's leave that hot, cold race thing. Let's keep moving, right? Different shades. Like I said, they got shades of different color. And don't get me wrong, even if they're out in the sun all day, each of them have a limit. This one just so happens to have a limit. Like the darkest ones, they have a limit where they can be outside and the sun will go back down and they'll be all right. But they gotta have an affinity to the sun. They can't sit in their house most of their life if they don't go out in the sun and not need suntan lotion. Suntan lotion is not, I'm about to go out and put it on. It's I'm outside and I'm reaching the threshold for what I understand my body can take. So within a few minutes of that, I start putting it on so I can stay out longer. If I can't and it's not working, get your behind the house. All right, the different types of melanin. They call it eumelanin when it's black and brown, phenomelanin, sulfur-based, or lighter colored skin types, and neuromelanin. Everybody has that. It's the black substance that laces your neurons. And that's what makes everybody capable of strong physical activity, because it's neuronal. So the skin one, environmental, sunlight, the ability to vibrate a lot higher. Nervous system, movement, things the body does. We can be equal on that plane, unless you have an autosomal issue that messes with your nervous system. Next one. So problem slide.
There's no such thing.
But they're too fast. All right, so.
Do you want to take a break here and come back to this?
Their call. Break? 10 minutes?
Let's take a break.
10 minutes.
Promise the same. USG certified, they know my name. Drowning in debt, coming up with the bins in a situation where the means justify the ends. What's the best tool to build? Could it be drugs? Could it be thugs or brotherly love? These babies gotta eat, so it really don't bother me. As long as we escape poverty, bracing for the worst, on the quest for the best. When other niggas quit, I pledge my flesh to my last breath. And I ain't never stop, I never turn back. The evil that men do can never turn black in the slums. With bums that take your life for crumbs. G stood plumb on they square, made men out of sons. Fiending to live, we scratch that itch while you were scared to take a risk. We smack that bitch.
All right, y'all, let's get back to it. Let's get back to it. I got a video, so just showing on what's on it here. Try to turn it down so my little ears aren't too close, because we set this joint up earlier when it was quiet. So, the video, see, this is just a video game, but your children play them, so listen carefully. This is a video game portion that I would have taken, but somebody else took it and they combined it with things going on in society. It has to do, now you notice, before we got here, it said problems. So that's what this is more associated with. So I'm going to flip to this video. I'm going to let it play. Listen to the dialogue. Anybody played Metal Gear before? You played it before, Charles. I know you did. Armand, yeah. So Metal Gear, the maker's name is Hideo Kojima. He's a Japanese guy. After I played that game, all I kept saying to myself is, he knows something everybody don't know. because he's so good at military espionage, he was able to take things and like put them together, and you're looking at it like, damn, it makes so much sense. There was 9 of the games. One of them even explained why do people care so much about having so many nuclear weapons when they got enough. You got like 12 of them and 2 will blow the earth up. Why do you care? It's like China versus Russia versus America. 2 nukes will blow the world up. They all have 12. And the next one gets 13. And how is it the next one? Ha! 13. Well, he explained why that whole thing mattered. The term Metal Gear technically was a machine where because here's what happens. You fire one nuke, you damage a huge portion of the earth. You fire the next one, everyone's gone. The Metal Gear guaranteed that if one person fired, it was going to fire back. So now, no matter how many nukes you got, if you fire the first one, the second one's guaranteed to come back, taking the nuclear war completely out of the equation. And that's how you neutralize nuclear war. Somebody got literally had a finger on a button or a nuke and had the capability to blow the earth up and nobody checks them, which will never happen because that type of material can be found everywhere on earth. Remember, we're in a military society. So I'm gonna play this video before 9/11 happened. This is Metal Gear 2. This is like the best one created, if you ask me. Before 9/11 happened, this game was stopped from coming out because it takes place in New York. And if you listen to the stuff they talk about on it, that's probably why. It was gonna probably have people like, yo, something wrong. Okay? Nearly 20 years ago, that was created. And the purpose, of course, when they put Obama up there, you get this whole argument, oh, he's someone who hates Obama. I was like, don't worry about that, listen to the message. The world is being engulfed in truths. Nobody's invalidated, but nobody's wrong. You see what I mean? It's that kind of world, it's becoming the individual. Even I was talking about that when we first started. Yeah, I'm gonna give y'all this and y'all decide for yourselves. Because that's also a part of the truth. That is something that we're supposed to do. But it's supposed to happen in a community context. And what's happened is we're missing the community. We have to know what the greater good is for humanity. Once you know the greater good for yourself, you'll make sure someone else has those things, and everything starts coming back to normal. So when they say it's a well-staged performance and the government's making you think this and do that, well, watch nature. You watch nature, you start to know what happens to the body. You start to know what happens to the mind. You start to know what your community should look like. And then you start looking into all this new stuff they create. Then you all start agreeing on what the actual truth is. Yo, doesn't matter what the government tells us. I put this sea moss in my body, iodine levels go up, thyroid gets better. There's no doctor, no government that can do anything about it except dry up the seaweed that's in the atmosphere. And we know they're strong enough at this point to affect global atmospheres. We've been born long enough to see a lot of that happen because it was after the 50s it sped up. That was around the time that Tesla's work started to really push out, because Tesla found out something about electricity that really moved a lot of things forward. Then the genetic thing started to come through. And when genetics happened, they literally found out how to make you operate by typing keys on a computer. And I got more info on that coming up. So let's slide through some of these things. Institutions, we need these for ourselves. Institutions withstand the test of time. When you die, everything the institution stands for gets taken over by someone else to make sure their principles are implemented. And those are the people who control society now. We're going to the Art Institute. We're going to the such and such institute. When you go to an institute, it's someone's thought from long ago still carrying forward. So you can't think about life as just yourself. Yeah, you want to get your piece of the pie, but when you do the right things, you find yourself getting a lot more than you bargained for. All right, books I've read, I got one of them here. I have this one here, The Bell Curve I told you, with Francis Cress Welsing. Medical apartheid. This was the situation where black women during slavery who lived in certain shops, their shop owners would put a bunch of them out. And you know how they do, they're gonna look for the prettiest one. You get hurt. So some of the women would scratch themselves and have their friends mutilate themselves so they wouldn't get chosen. They take them into a basement, hack away at them. Ain't no anesthesia back then. So hack away at the women. Sometimes the people helping the guy doing illegal stuff underground, they would quit because it would be so nasty what was going on. Eventually, he studied black biology. Yeah, man, I wish I remember this guy's name. I might even have it on here. But I gotta get the guy's name for y'all and put it in the notes. But what he did was, he studied black women's body, learned how to solve a lot of white problems, and they made him the father of modern gynecology. There's a statue up for him. So this is how far things go. This book explains that history, and a woman wrote it. So it's important because it's big on women, and the woman wrote it. Why I read it? Not a woman, so we didn't vote from a woman who studies things. Tavistock Institute. You can't see it behind here. Social Engineering the Masses. That's one of 3 books that I read to find out how places like Walmart, Target, McDonald's, and all them blew up big. They found out how to do things that make people think a certain way, and then when they got a test of the product, they started taking it in themselves, giving it to them kids, and here we go. We got generations of wealth. And they're not going to stop because they argue with their own family about what they need to stop. Right now, people are arguing over Chick-fil-A and Popeye's chicken. Marketing started years ago. It's still going.
Not benefit from either one of them. They both killed us.
That's right.
Yeah. Because everybody, like, it's one thing if it's like we was all healthy people and they'd be like, yo, I'm about to get some of this junk food real quick, see what the buzz is all about. And then you get a little sick and then you leave it alone, right? Because they say moderation, but really it's all poison at the end of the day. There's no moderation. There is no moderation. You could be 20 now, drink alcohol, be 60 later, drink alcohol, the one at 60 kills you, and you only had 2. It doesn't matter. What's a poison is a poison. There's no moderation. You gamble every time. People who do drugs, some of them snort, sniff, go years. Black women be having kids after years of doing it. Genetics just strong like that. But another person, one sniff, dead. Everybody's gambling every time they take a poison. Yep. All right? We all know them? Monsanto, very familiar? Yeah, let's move forward. But this is funny. This guy's name is Dwayne Johnson. I'm like, The Rock?
Oh yeah, he was the man in suit.
It took years. They've been around for years. He won the court case. Proved that they was hiding information that said it caused cancer. Everybody was like, no, because I told people, don't go with things that have nothing to do with nature. But they did the studies and they did all this, and they've been around for years. It's those darn liberals, people arguing over whether it's liberal or conservative, who's talking about this stuff. I'm like, yo, said they were hiding the studies that said it caused cancer, and they've been around for 40-something years. Even though they got sued for like $300-something million, how much money they make over 40 years? Right. That suing ain't gonna stop them because they used to be a part of Bayer and IG Farben. So you can change your company name, let them get hit with the trial, change your company name back, keep going.
Are they still advertising?
Yeah. I just seen a dude at the McDonald's the other day when I was driving by, pull up with the canister with the joint over his face. Because all they did was say, okay, now the truth is I'll just put the warning label on the joint, and the dude still got a job because he got to eat to live. Society, things in society that are bad support things that are good. I got to feed my family. I've been doing this for years. I can't just quit because a study came out that said I'm going to get cancer. So I'm going to put this mask on and do what I got to do to feed my family. So that person's stuck till they find a better job, if they even care to.
They don't care.
Yeah, because jobs like that are dangerous tend to pay more than the one they tell you to get. Right? Labels, when y'all go to the market, 5-digit code starting with a 9 is an organic brand.
Right.
4-digit code is conventional, meaning cheapest option.
Right.
Okay, so cheapest option wins. 5-digit code starting with an 8 means it's GMO. I think they got some joints with 3s on it now. That means it's spray or something like that. I've seen something with a 3 beginning. But that's how you can tell the difference, and the stickers are right on. So if you see it with a 9 on the front, it's going to be there. There was always the argument about, oh, they made it organic and they do all this because they want to charge more money. Let's make it real for those who make that argument. If you grew food in your backyard and it's organic, it's going to be dead in a few days. If you grow 100 of them and you need to sell 100, you only sell 3. If you don't sell it for a higher amount, you won't be growing the next batch. That's why it's more expensive. So
And
if people learn
for
to
the certification.
certification too. That certification is expensive. So how does a company like this move in on the farmers? Me and DeVita looked at that years ago. What happened was Monsanto comes up with this. Remember, you can only patent something not man-made. So they find a way to genetically modify a seed, and they go to Congress like, yeah, we found a way to get it. All right, y'all good, y'all got it. All right, let's go check the farmers and make sure they're not using our seeds now that we've been out for a minute. So the farmers laugh. They're like, yeah, we just want to check your best, make sure you're not using our seeds. They're like, oh man, we got the real deal here. We don't care to use your seeds. We've been doing this for years. They come, be like, all right, we all done here. Roll out. Come back a year later. We here to check, do daily inspection. Well, you got our seeds growing up in here. They're like, what? What you talking about? Regardless of how that argument went, they was like, yo, all we know is at the end of the day, we still, just for you to start this court case with us is 25 grand. Farmers ain't got 25 grand. They doing local. They can't afford to fight. So what they say is, tell you what, they give them a little pat on the shoulder. Tell you what, grow our stuff. Keep your land, farm for us, ship it to us, your family will eat for decades. They doing it. Who was I just talking to here about that? Somebody was talking about how they offer you all that money and you just take it. I was talking to somebody here. Somebody said something about it earlier. But yeah. Yeah, you know how it is when somebody's poor, when they're sitting on a gold mine and they don't know it. They come in.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, they come in there, offer you a big stack of cash. Your house is worth $300, but you don't study real estate. You just go to work, do your thing, come home. It's worth $300. When you bought it, it's 25 grand. It's years ago, but it's worth $300. Somebody comes and be like, I got this 110 for you, man. It's a lot of cash. You ain't never had it. You mad because all the stress at work, firing off your adrenal glands. You can't wait to get out. Yo, I ain't never had 110. I'll just go find me another spot. And they recommend stuff in bad neighborhoods, sewage, and plumbing, and nuclear zones. This is redline. You try and get that neighborhood, but they like, we're not selling to you. But they can't say it that way. Right. So it's a big trickle-down factor. Right. I'm talking about this, and we talking about health. Right. This is how when me and Jim talk, he'd be like, how you be talking about all this stuff? I was like, because somehow it all correlates. I can't afford the food because of my job and my stress problems. Somebody give me cash to get rid of the thing that it's a gold mine, but I don't know it because I'm spending too much time at work. I don't read and study. Not because I don't want to. I gotta go to work to feed my family. It's just a treadmill constantly happening. I'll just read this off. This is in the big slides too. Natural resources in the environment cannot be patented, which is why they are not pushed as healing items. It is illegal for you to state that any food item can absolutely heal or cure. Remember, I gave you the disclaimer. The body does that on its own, so you don't have to. Give the body what it needs, and it'll take care of the rest. This is why you hear statements like, the lycopene in tomatoes may be good for your blood. You get words like may and might, okay? When an item is patented, it becomes exclusive for the seller, and therefore, by marketing the item, you can reap major profits. For example, stevia comes from a plant and can be used as a sweetener. So what you can do is extract the chemical sweetening ingredient from the plant, market the product by using the info about the plant as a whole.
And you're not getting
this duct tape, I'm telling you, you're gonna get your iron up. Shoot, this duct tape is swallowed. So I say, I wonder what's in the duct tape doing. I pull it out. This is the part that's making duct tape have all the iron. Throw the duct tape away. Sell this to you, and the statistics talk about the duct tape. So keep that in mind. These are little strategies that people use to get rich and screw the people over. Because when I read this big book I got at home on money, the summary of the whole book was big dog eat little dog. I found out how to manipulate. So I wasn't there when gold and money was backing each other. Now we here with derivatives and stock markets and interest rates on the bank loan and this exchange rate. We got all this money crap.
Cryptocurrency.
How many pages is in that tax code, Davina?
2,000.
72,000 in the tax code. And that was dog eat dog. One person found a way to make the money work for them. Government caught wind of it. Somebody lobbied the government or talked to somebody, got the tax code switched or something added in so that their industry could do a little something different and still get the profit. And someone gets screwed along the way. And another person does it, another person doesn't. What happens when our generation comes along, like where I'm at? They start creating laws to lock you off from what your parents taught you. Save your money. One day you'll be rich. And then we go to the bank like, man, it was getting 12%, 6%, it was getting all this and that. And then you go to the bank and be like, all right, what's the competitive rates? Yo, it's gonna be looking like this. They'd be like, after 1 month of putting your money with us, you'd be like, well, damn, they told me I was gonna get rich. It wasn't that your parents weren't smart, the game changed.
Right.
And once we get a good dialogue between the parent and the child keeps coming to the parent. They're like, these kids make all the excuses. No, we're bringing you back the info from what you told us. And we're trying to explain it. Like, you don't want to listen. Hearing goes out the window from both sides at a point. Because the child was young, he didn't listen much, so eventually the parent, he don't listen anyway. So now we got this break in dialogue happening between the generations when really it's the kids saying like, yo, everything in the environment around me seems to be getting money. So that's the standard of how to survive. I'm coming back to my parents saying, how do I get to that standard? They give me good information, but it don't exist no more. Right. It existed when they did. So I always told my dad, like, yo, if the world was the way it was when you grew up, I have it in the bag. Right. Because everything you told me was right. It wasn't that he was wrong. And I got grown up where if you don't listen, back, that kind of generation. But it was never really just about that. It was about what could you do to get your people ahead. Remember, for black people already, it's, what did you say we had to go through? We do double the work, get half the black tax. The black tax. The black tax. Yeah, you got to work like extra hard to get half the results, just to make it somewhere. And then you grow up in a family where it's like, oh, get out, I ain't giving you nothing. You're 18, get out, do this, do that. You're doing it all on your own because you ain't gonna appreciate it if I give it to you. You're adding one to the pile when I'm black. So what it's supposed to be is, this is my point of view. You know, you guys are parents, you know better than I do. But I'm just saying my point of view as being a child one says, you teach me as I grow up. All kids get sick of hearing being taught things. They're the type that go out like dogs do. They sniff and they'll see if it smells good, bite, taste, and eat. And no matter how much you smack them and tell the dog not to do it, they're like, yo, I'm trying to test the waters, though. I'm trying to see what's good. Children are like that. If you keep holding it back from them, and then they go to school, it's two parents, maybe brother, sister, or something, trying to tell you what to do. But it's 900 other people in school, grade after grade, with different parents coming in, either giving them something or not giving them something. It's a kid next to me, I'm 11 years old, it's a kid next to me talking about porn. So now I'm young and I know about porn. Go home to the parents, you don't need to be messing with that. 900 other people in school, and like half of them is dealing with that. So my curiosity levels is high. So now you parents dealing with that. You start to see how the community thing goes. This is why everything's holistic. It all works together. If the community's not good, your kid leaves the house now, you want to know where they at if you care about it. Back in the day, stay on this side of the street or stay on the block, because your community was bigger. If you was about to get hit by a car, if I went in the house to get a drink real quick, I could count on the neighbor saying, whoa, you about to get killed. Or you did something wrong, get in here before the cops come kill you. Yeah. But nowadays, they be like, cell phone be like, somebody ass about to get locked up. They film it. They ain't gonna protect your kid. They gonna film it and say, see what happens when you be dumb? People gonna try and become an internet celebrity over it. Oh, this was a good one I found. This is old. Everybody knows cigarettes, bad, all that stuff like that. Check this out. Doubt is our product. This is a fascinating memo on the tobacco industry's PR strategy. I'm not sure how I stumbled upon this document, but its contents were illuminating. The document is a memo from Brown & Williamson, and then subsidiary of British American Tobacco, reviewing the current state of tobacco industry's public relations and proposing next steps. The Tobacco Institute has probably done a good job for us in the area of politics, and as an industry, we also seem to have done very well in turning out scientific information to counter the anti-smoking claims. We are restricted in terms of the ability to sell in colleges and vending machines. Our products are branded with the warning label. Our ability to advertise has been attacked on all forms and has consistently deteriorated. Doubt is our product, since it is the best means of competing with the body of fact that exists in the mind of the general public. It is also the means of establishing a controversy. All we have to do is make people doubt something, and they'll argue about it, and we'll keep selling it and killing people.
That's what they're doing with the dates now.
Yeah,
Which more to be here? The paper.
Okay.
The paper.
6:30, so we're gonna keep riding because we run out of time. Allopathic medicine, these are things that are in your slide. So this is just kind of reinforcing the point. What pharmacy and stuff is doing. Vaccines, I know I was gonna go in on that one.
Yeah.
Probably have to get at it in a little bit. I'll touch on it in a little bit though. I'm just hitting these so y'all can see what's actually here.
Should we do the vaccine?
Oh, we're gonna hit some of it. Let me put it next to this, okay? This is a system, an immune system, right? This is an immune system cascade that works in the body. Most of the time we're told about white blood cells. This is the antioxidant system. The reason that this slide next to it exists is because that word keeper is important. The keep one molecule holds on to NRF2. It's like the dude holding you back from the fight. This keeps getting created, but because it's pretty dangerous, it keeps being degraded. The body keeps saying, all right, it's not needed, get it out of here. It's not needed, get it out of here, so that gets damaged. So he holds that at bay. The moment an oxidant comes in the body, which is why we have antioxidants, so if you eat something that oxidizes your body, keep one molecule backs off. He goes to the center of the cell and activates an autoimmune an immune cascade. What happens is you have what they call dioxygen, which is the oxidant. You take in an antioxidant, which I have written over here, and this cascade happens. This is how they found out about peroxide. When you put in one part of the defense system, the free radical turns into peroxide. From peroxide, it turns into water. From water, water can be used in your body to get things out. That's why this exists. This is not the white blood cell defense. This is not the stuff you're normally told. Where's your white blood cells at? Because you got this, that, no. That's what this cascade is for. And my brother's keeper. That's how I remember it. Okay? So, vaccines. Let me touch it a little bit, right? And then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes. This is how it works. This vaccine's going to get a good 5 minutes from it. you have two types of immune system, although there's more to it, as I just showed you. That was the antioxidant system. There's a complementary system too. But the ones that we're familiar with when we're talking about vaccines is innate and adaptive. The vaccine system works on the adaptive system. But there's a problem with that. It's bypassing the checks and balances. When you get cut or when something bad enters your body, you get inflammation, right? Everybody familiar with inflammation? You start hearing things like turmeric, black seed oil, and stuff like that, right? From chronic inflammation, arthritis. So, what happens is you get cut. You breathe in something wrong, whatever. You get inflammation, which is heat, redness, raising of the actual location, and sometimes immobility. You start to lose some of the mobility from all the pain, right? So your body's stiffening because what happens is when you slice it, chemicals come out that start to cause things to bind up. A part of that is the pain receptors. The deeper the pain, the more the body is saying, do not touch this mother, because it's trying to tell you if you keep messing with this, it's going to get worse. Pain is a great deterrent.
Exactly.
But people don't want the deterrent. So they eat the beef to get the colon cancer, and they be like, give me something to get rid of the pain.
Yeah.
Pain management. Go eat me another burger. Till eventually the doctor says, one more, you dead. I guess we won't go out with it. So, adaptive immunity. Once you get that slice, if your body cannot handle the problem, I'm kind of jumping a little bit the way this is explained, so you get the kind of meat out of it. What happens is you get the inflammation and heat, redness and stuff like that. White blood cells start coming in, you get histamines and cytokines and all this crap like that. It's a full-on war going on down there just to get this joint cleaned up and bind it up. We use things like peroxide that we saw in the last thing. That's how doctors know to use it, alcohol, all that, to help clean it up, to help the fight. The problem is when you use an outside chemical that's poisonous, you kill off everything in the area. And that's why they say, yo, hit it with this, patch that joint up. Because if we let that air hit it, now we got another problem. Well, sometimes the body can't win that fight instantly. It starts to spread. When it starts to spread, heat starts to spread more. Your body temperature starts to rise. You get a fever. The fever is the trigger that moves from innate to adaptive. So once you get that fever, viruses and bacteria die at higher temperatures. Your body is protecting you with the fever. If you take something to drop the fever, which has a two-way argument, as always, if it drops the fever, you're dropping the defense mechanism. So the question is, who's coming back first after I drop it? So you take some type of antihistamine or something like that, everything there dies. And ain't nothing there to fight in the battle. Stitch him up. See if the fever go down. Doctor be like, if it get worse, come back. You know, they love to tell you that. Wait till you get worse, then come back. So all of a sudden, you get worse. Why? Because your body wasn't replicating its cells to heal faster than the bacteria and stuff started coming back to the area before something set in. So what happens is there's a certain white blood cell. You get two colors for this, right? Here comes, this is the offender. He's circular, right? He's the circular bacteria that's coming in, causing the offense. And on this end, we have the white blood cell. White blood cell has two receptors on the surface. One is called MH1. Anything nucleated in the body, any cell in the body that it recognizes, dudes, the killer cells pass by, oh, we good, that's us. Keep on going. The moment there's something in the body that's not you, some of the cells have the ability, like let's say this bacteria infected this cell. Let's just make a scenario out of it. The bacteria infects the cell. When the cell realizes it's about to be compromised, and sometimes when it's not, depending on the white blood cell type, it can swallow it, tear a piece off of it, and stick it inside the MH2. The MH1 is me. MH2 is something's going on. Once it tears a piece of that off, it runs it back to the lymph nodes. These green dots I just drew on here not too long ago. It takes it into the lymph nodes and it becomes mature. It says, yo, dude out there causing problems, this is the one we need to get. And because it knows the shape and the type of the actual offending virus, everybody gets this shape attached to the white blood cells and they replicate this same cell. So they got B cells, astrocytes, they got different names for it, but I don't want to give you all that. Just know that there's different types of white blood cells and they handle differently. Some of them will eat the offender, some of them will eat the offender and he's so strong that something in the body which you need selenium for will cause it to destroy itself so that it does not infect the rest of the body. So there are suicide mechanisms in the body. You need selenium in your diet for it to work. This is why viruses are highly attached to selenium being in your body. It's the reason the study came out that said if you're going to cure AIDS, it must include glutathione, which is actually the reason this system works. Glutathione, read. This is serious defense system in your body. I recommend you search and read up on it. In this process, free radicals that cause internal stress and damage to the body is neutralized by the system. The minerals selenium, manganese, zinc, iodine, iron, and copper are necessary for it to function properly. Next to these minerals, it is a very important antioxidant your body makes with 3 amino acids, aka protein. Cysteine, glycine, glutamine, called glutathione. Glutathione and selenium are the main constituents a lot of people are lacking in when viruses overrun their body. Any virus. Doesn't matter which one. You need these 2 in there in high amounts to either survive, not get, or stand a fighting chance. When those 2 don't exist, you succumb to AIDS, herpes, all kinds of stuff. Right. And I can get you, and the study is going to be in the data I send y'all after this is over. The study is in there. It says it in the literature. It says what we do know. Glutathione and selenium is the virus's Achilles heel. And if you're going to heal it, you need it. You absolutely need it. Then they say there's a study coming out of Botswana where 99% of cases are healed of AIDS and HIV in 3 weeks. That's in a study and an article I got. It's the best I could find, but it existed since the 80s. An African dude actually had a cure for it and he got killed. So, what can you do? Like I said, the job is to protect the republic. You protect the republic by protecting the economy. The economy runs on how much money goes in and out. If you suddenly stop that, you send the whole system into disarray, which is why you got to see both sides of the coin. You can't just suddenly wake everybody up and make them stop everything, because they'll hurt themselves. Unless they really become militant and know everything necessary to defend against another country, because it's a lot of countries that hate us. And if it's enough countries that hate us and we start falling down, other countries recognize it. How do you know that? Because all countries are founded on the principles of science and war. It's the most primary book of war. If you're going to read anything about how countries fight each other, you have to start here. Absolute must. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. You must do that. Okay? So, finish here. He knows what it is. He goes to the lymph nodes. He becomes mature, which means he can go tap other people. He can also create more versions of his type. Now, they start to cascade around the body and knock down the virus. What they also do is the body uses the DNA and RNA chain reverse transcriptase, which is how you work backwards, how you go from proteins back to DNA. People think it's just DNA out and you're genetic. No, it goes in reverse. I learned something, I go store it in the body. Now, when that virus comes on, y'all ever hear, once you get it, you never get it again, chicken pox, measles, all that? That's why. It studied. It went through the whole cascade of events, and when it found out what it was, it held on to some of it and said, if it comes back, I know who he is. I'm going to replicate again and get his ass out of here. Okay? So that's how that whole thing works. That is the reason why with vaccines, now this is a key point. With vaccines, when they shoot that stuff right into your system, there's something called the blood-brain barrier. You break that blood-brain barrier, that's like the biggest barrier in the body to letting things get to the head. Once it goes up in there and starts getting places, what's the one thing people are arguing real huge right now about vaccines and brain disorders? Broke the blood-brain barrier. And you did it in a child, because even the medical system admits that children and adults are the most susceptible to problems. So when a child gets older, oh man, I forgot to put that in there. I'm gonna send that to y'all with a document. So the government stepped in and created the, man, I wonder if one of y'all know the name of it, but it's this law that was created that said, when somebody's hurt by a vaccine, we're going to compensate them for it. But in that same document, it says this does not admit guilt. So they protected it from shutting down.
Now, is there like, well, speaking of connection, adult-child connection, any insight to somewhat, link to autism?
Is there a current link? Unfortunately, some dude jumped the gun and tried to put out a study that says, look, I found a link. Yeah. They found out he was lying. So that completely nullified the argument. Yeah. And that strengthened the vaccine system. Okay. So right now, I have no current data outside of the fact that I know when you put a foreign substance in the body straight into the blood, you're running the risk of bypassing the system.
Okay.
Because the vaccine thing is based on immediately jumping from here straight to here. Because we inject something in the bloodstream in the body, like, whoa, something is moving around that don't belong here. And it tries to grab it, which is why you don't get the full effect. If it worked exactly the same, when this happens, you don't get that disease again. But when you do it through vaccine strain, what do they tell you? Make sure you get your first, second, third, and since there's an outbreak, get a fourth. And that'll make you 98% immune if everybody else gets it. So I started going online saying, I'm not gonna tell y'all whether to get them or not, but if we know people got weak immune systems and a lot more people don't, why are we hitting everybody with something that might cause another low probability thing? Don't get me wrong, you get a vaccine, there's a low probability you'll have some damage. But when you look at both numbers, both of them are kind of high as a number. So maybe there's 7 billion people, 500,000 get damage in the brain. It's not big in number when you look at the percentage, but that's a big number generally. And the same thing happens on the other side when you don't get it. Except what they found was, let's say measles, I believe measles was the one. They said what happened in the measles case a long time ago was, out of 168 million people, 4,500,000 had contact with measles. Out of that, 4,000 something were hospitalized. Out of that, less than 500 died. So when you put all the information in there and you compare it to what they're saying you should do, they're going to say outbreaks, but it's like y'all start fooling with sex. There's a lot of connections. We'll run out of time if I explain it, but what happened was all these changes happened in society. They started thinking that they could use 3 minerals to grow food. People were dying from that. Then they started testing stuff in different countries, like when they was testing, I think like an AIDS vaccine or something like that, or when they had a bad batch of something that was happening, they sent it to Africa and people was dying from that. All this dying was happening, but at the same time, hygiene was getting better. So people who got measles were becoming numb. They weren't accounting for that. So years later, the number went down because so many people had it, people were becoming immune to it. It's like so many people had it, yo, nobody's really getting it. Of course the number's gonna go down. So they're not accounting for that. Then cleanliness measures came up. Not too many people was going in the bathroom like, oh, it's right. Go outside, cook your food. Not too many people was doing that. So when they have better soaps, better filtering mechanisms and stuff, all the numbers naturally go down. But the key is, we need to stop letting them scare us by saying how many people, so they'll say something like, oh, 1 in 100 will get it. Stop asking yourself, can I be one of the 100? Ask yourself, how do I be one of the 99? That's how you protect yourself. How come they're not getting and they are? Well, this is a real big deal. Wait a minute. More than half the population don't have it. But since we're talking about it, I'm asking why didn't they get it? Out of 500,000 exposed, there's 7 billion people in America, or whatever, right? So a bunch of us here. 500,000 people got it. Big epidemic. By your case, I think they said 6 people or something like that is considered an epidemic. They probably dropped the number since. So I can easily start this cascade of things that's supposed to come out and shoot people up to stop something from spreading. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't have control over that system. I can't tell people to or not to get them. What I know is, you don't know if your child has a compromised immune system or not. They just tell you need to get them because chances are, if you're smart, you'll actually question that chances are. Chances are, you know, the children comes out the womb, they're very susceptible. How susceptible? How many people in America, how many kids get it? No one ever asked. Doctor talks, we do. And because that happens, you get a lot of people with it, and nobody wants to be caught with their pants down. So they going to defend the fact they got it. Oh, my child got it, nothing happened. Meanwhile, it's a whole other group of people like, my child got it, and I'm getting payments for the rest of my life. My child can't take care of herself. So 2 to 3 people in the family now gotta watch my child. You see what I mean? This is the cascade of events that are actually happening because they're saying, we need to do it because we're scared of an outbreak. Well, stop feeding the system poisons and you won't have to worry about it. But they're not gonna stop because we help them. We eat what we're not supposed to eat. We do what we're not supposed to do because it tastes good. It helps us socialize. This is what people do. You get what you asked for, right?
Then they try to tag negligence on you.
Yep. Davida, how we doing on time? Because I know I chewed up quite a bit.
So we got 13 minutes.
We got 13 minutes. All right, let me flip through.
Question.
Yes.
Another question. Maybe more statement. Just talking about birth control. Some of the stuff that they're giving these kids without information. You know.
I want to hit that one. I'm gonna just send y'all info on that. Why? Because what that's going to do is that's going to follow this trend. How to get things into the body and make them react without going through the checks and balances.
And
But you know the original, the origin purpose of birth control, right? And why
That's what you're talking about,
passed
birth
down to
control.
the black woman. They wanted to stop our race from. So they sold the idea to us like, oh, it's good, like, oh, we don't, yeah.
Using, I ran into a young lady.
Let me do this.
She had to have ovaries.
Let me go over proteins because protein is a big package. For those who aren't on YouTube, I did a quick one on protein. Let me hit it for y'all because it's a really big piece that you're going to need before we got to bounce up out of here. I'm going to make it quicker than I did there. Right? So protein is like playing Legos. That's all it is. Everything's a protein. The food you're eating right now, proteins. Proteins are a string of amino acids, because an amino acid is a protein. It's a string of amino acids. Think of a pearl necklace, right? Think of something like this. It's a string of amino acids folded into a shape to perform a certain function, which means it encompasses almost every piece of life you can name. The only difference between one protein and another is the mechanisms of action, meaning what's it going to do. So if I build a protein, it has a reason to work in my body. So, the same example I used before, if you have a truck and you have a car, they both have alternators in them. Both our bodies have hearts in them and things like that. But, can I put your heart in my body and it's guaranteed to work? No, they gotta give me anti-rejection drugs. Proteins don't match. You put the truck alternator inside of the car, it won't work. But what's common between them? The pieces are common. The amino acids are common. They're not always the same because one's bigger than the other. When it gets real long, they call it a peptide. So proteins, peptides. It's all about chain, how many in the chain. So there's tons of them. Don't worry about which ones unless you want to get in genetics, okay? So I take a certain amount of amino acids from eating food. The body gets a piece of meat. I'm a car. Animal's a truck. I eat the meat. Does meat digest as fast as fruit?
No.
No. Why? Because that big behind truck alternator takes time to take apart to get the pieces I need. And by the time it does it, half the food then putrefied in my stomach. Which is why you get gassy and stuff like that. It's sitting there too long. Right. But when you eat good, regular, wholesome food that's alive, that digests anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So it gets out faster, you're ready to eat again if you feel so inclined. But you just gotta make sure you don't eat the wrong thing. So what you're doing is putting the truck alternator in the car. And when you do that, the body says, I needed to put this together to heal him from that. But now I gotta break that down. So put it in a tumor, put it in a polyp, put it in something until I can deal with it. Because that's how antivirus works on a computer. If it can't get rid of it, it packages it. So, and it quarantines it, and it says, yo, we'll deal with that when we can. But all this crap keeps coming down, and we gotta keep putting it somewhere so they don't die. That's how you start getting more tumors and polyps and things like that. And if one of them ruptures or breaks open, what was inside of it? Fungus, yeast, all kinds of stuff. And that spreads throughout the body. It metastasized. And now you're going downhill. And people be like, can I get rid of it past that point? As long as them things is packaged, I don't care what stage it is. I've probably heard a story of every stage being healed. However, the later the stage, the more due diligence you need for life going on. Because if you got cancer after 40 years, you're going to get it in 2. You run that process back again, and then you're going to get it in a matter of a week. So there is no when can I go back to what I was doing. You hear that one a lot. Man, I just want to get back to my life. What happened when people get out of surgery? So they get cancer, they get it cut out, the family wants to celebrate. Oh man, you beat it? It's in remission. Remission is another one where they're insulting you. Remission means remission. That's funny enough in itself. They didn't say it's healed, try not to get it again. It's in remission. These things just come back. No, you re-triggered it. It's not genetic. All genetic is a light switch. And when you have a light switch with something, all you gotta do is turn it on. You get diabetes from repeating what your parents did. You have a stronger affinity to doing it because the symptoms you get are how your body defends itself. You speed it up when you keep doing what the last person did. So the body jumps on it quicker. Your blood pressure goes up and down, right? It goes up and down. I eat something poisonous, it takes a couple hours, blood pressure's up, couple hours, blood pressure's down. 20, 40 years later, you get a little salt. Boom, hits the roof quick. Body's adaptive. Remember, pressure. It does something, do something long enough, more consistent, you're going to get the effect from it. That's good and bad. You do good things, you get the effect from it. You do something bad long enough, your body speeds up the rate at which to perform that response. Because the body says, they just put a poison in, what? And then eventually, gets the poison out of there. Then after it gets the poison out of there, you keep doing it. And the body says, yo, send a message upstairs that says, they keep doing it. So when this happens, Get on it. And now, every time you eat a certain thing, it spikes and goes up and down. So when you get rid of the high blood pressure in the name of the number they give you, they'd be like, yeah, they still gotta watch it because it goes up and down fast. That just means your response is good. Your body knows, like, yo, they've been doing this for so long, if they do it, I'm getting it out of there as fast as I can. How do I do that? I turn the pressure up. Poison comes in, push it out faster. Push the pressure up fast. If you stop doing it long enough, eventually the pressure going up and down starts to normalize. It's like lifting weights. You lift for a long enough time, you lift heavy weight. The higher the weight goes, the faster it comes crashing down when you stop doing it. So you just gotta follow the flow. Everything works within the flow. Stress, we talked about that earlier. Adrenals, fight or flight. It's the front runner because chemical, physical, emotional stressors cause all the problems. If it's chemical, it's food. If it's physical, car accident, things like that, it happens. That does happen. And what I say, emotional, arguments, waking up from sleep with alarm clocks, things like that. Those immediate stress. Somebody ready to fight, surge of energy, stress. That's why stress is the front runner. Stress. Stress.
Heart attack.
If you see the gut, stress. Doesn't matter what it comes from. Physical, chemical, emotional. It goes to the gut on men. It tends to go to the upper back on white women. It goes to different places for different people. Okay? You do this long enough as a female, no butt.
No butt.
Body tends to do this weird thing. I was listening to a dietitian and nutritionist talk about this, and he was talking about how the men's body and the women's body are affected. For men, this always starts to drop down below the pelvic area. For women, it starts to push in. For white women, their back starts to lift up, things like that.
And that's a conscious thing too, right? Especially with white.
Yeah, because if that's there, you're doing
so much.
That's why they get the dudes like that who be like this. They usually got a husky walk. They look like they run somebody over. So what happens is their family starts saying, "You lost weight. You look good like that." That's your community telling you to stay like that.
Every inch on your stomach is 10 pounds on your back.
That's right. You got to be a strong person in this world to change things. You might look good as a bigger or smaller person, but sometimes the adding of weight or taking away of weight is better for you. You got to find out where it lives for you. Yeah. Exercise. I was going to do some demos on that, but time on that. Clean food, clean water, clean air. All right, I'm going to run through this chain quick. Most of y'all probably heard this before, but I'm going to run through this quick. 4 things necessary for life. You got your oxygen, right? Oxygen is how you breathe. You add the H to it, you have hydrogen and oxygen, you have your water. You add the CHO to it, you have carbohydrate, okay? Carbohydrate. That's 3 elements already. When you add the nitrogen, you got amino acids, you got protein. That's how it works in chemistry. Meat versus flesh. And I put that down there for the Christian Bible readers. Behold, I have given you the herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth and every tree, and which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. What do they tell you meat is? Oh, for all my people who try to, they be trying to justify the meat and the eggs and chicken all the time. This is the fiber chart. Pork, beef, chicken, lamb, eggs, cheese, 0. Put it in, no fiber to make it come out. Kale, apples, I put 2 examples up there. Then I put the definition. There is no dietary fiber in meat, fish, poultry, eggs, or milk. Many grain foods, including breakfast cereals, are good sources of fiber. But this is the funny thing. They don't advertise none of this green stuff. Kellogg's All Bran or Kellogg's All Bran with extra fiber has 10 to 14 grams of fiber. Remember we was watching that video? They create context. We don't control the content. So when you think fiber, you grab anything artificial. Kellogg's Raisin Bran does not grow on a tree. It's processed. Right. There you go. Before processing meat. You get that in the market. That's what it looks like before. The longer it goes, that turns brown. Sometimes the bone be green. If y'all go in the market, sometimes you see that green bone. You better look sitting there. Yep. We just went over protein.
What about the main?
No. If it does not exist in nature, it's not the way you want to take it. It's Metamucil. It don't say, here's a bottle of kale. Here's a bottle of apples. Here's a bottle of mango. Here's a bottle of watermelon. It's called Metamucil because someone patented it, which means they took something that has fiber in it. If you eat too much fiber without getting it the right way, the hydrated vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, that's how you get a prolapse colon. Too much abrasiveness. It's like pulling a rag through a pipe. That's how Mr. Akey explained it. You pull a rag through a pipe. You do that long enough, you're scraping up your colon wall. Prolapse. Pulls down, prolapse back up. Dairy. Important word. It has casomorphine in it. Major opiate addiction. You get people on cheese and dairy early enough, they're addicted to it. That creamy, greasy, buttery goodness. We be on it. We be on it. Y'all see I'm running now because we run out of time. Cholesterol is not bad. LDL or HDL, this is a marker. This is a marker. It does not mean that it's bad. It's carrying bad things out that you put in. HDL is carrying good things out you put in. They're carriers, that's all they are. When they see a lot of this, they're carrying a lot of bad stuff out. They lower your cholesterol because you won't lower it. And once they start doing that, remember, your body's only pumping out more cholesterol to deal with the problems you got in it. If they start taking some of that out, inflammation is this big, so we need this much cholesterol to deal with it. They chop some of that out. Inflammation keeps going. That's why after a while, the medication starts causing problems like MS. That's why they're called statin drugs, which means stop. It stops cholesterol from being created. Cholesterol has to do with the myelin sheath, which you always hear about when it comes to nerve problems. What happens is, I love messing with my time. Myelin sheath on the nerve fibers. This is the myelin sheath. This is the connecting nerve fiber running through it. The water is the myelin sheath. That's the plasma. Electricity moves faster in water. We agree on that, right? We know that.
Yes.
That's why your body's full of water. Electric impulses happen when you think of something. A cascade of electricity starts to pass through the body. If there's water there, it will make it. Just like spark plugs in your car. Who's ever replaced spark plugs? There's something called a gap. If the gap's too big, it can't jump. If the gap's too small, the current's too fast, it will burn out. When the myelin sheath goes, the gap's too big, burns out. Signal never makes it. Hormone issues. I'm trying to move my arms a certain way and they're doing what they want. The electricity's trying to flow smoothly, but it's not. It's popping and banging. And eventually, if the gap's too big, it makes it all the way up. There's no action at all. Time? All right.
Yeah.
So I'll just let the slides fly so y'all can see what else was there, all right? I'll put something together, do a video, I'll send y'all an email and stuff, and y'all can look at it. This was the sleep one right here.
We need to do it again.
I would love to. This is the food list. You're going to have this, okay? If you want some good starter foods for y'all to try, it's got everything in it.
I didn't give you my email.
That's what I wanted.
Give me the email. The video has the book.
We do.
That was the Neuralink, y'all. Yo, that, I ain't going to hold y'all. That Future Jones is going to hit a little hard. Oh, they're artificially creating leaves.
Stop.
Don't worry about the chemtrails. They're far beyond that. Way beyond that. They send ions and stuff into the clouds. Some of the stuff they do, they can tell where a lightning bolt is going to strike.
Yeah.
So they see the cloud a certain way and they can control where the lightning bolt goes.
Yeah.
Way beyond what y'all think. And you'll look at this later on. United Nations 2030 Agenda. Sustainable living. And here's the part that I love to pay attention to. The dissension that they're creating. The empowerment of all women and girls. That and minorities is what they mentioned. The word black is never used. They work a flow. If they talk about women and girls, and black men start saying, what about us? Black women gonna argue with black men, and nothing ever happens, and they keep on going. Everything they do buys time to create a society. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you all a finishing point, all right? The goal of the system in the beginning was to establish power. They did that. Slavery, all the bad things you see, they did. I showed you how they was mutilating women, doing all this stuff and that stuff to get the medical stuff. They did this to the food, they did that to the water. We know they did all that. All of us know that. The reason they did all that is to take the options from you so you will rely on them. As long as they keep you arguing, so that you can rely on them. Eventually what's going to happen is the tide's going to reverse. The future is not for them to scrutinize you or cause pain. The future is for you to accept everything they've done. Once you can eat all the terrible food and they say, lay on that bed, we're going to turn that machine on and it's going to regraft your entire body, go right back out and do what you want to do. And when you go to work, I tell you what, we'll make sure the kids get fed, college is paid for, secure a job. You see all these things we built, Amazon, Xfinity, all these people sitting on the top of the Aladdin mountain, right? All the people who got the riches while they could and put themselves at the top of the mountain, they just gonna tell you, you don't have no more stress. We'll watch your kids, wash your clothes, do everything for you. All you have to do is just go work our machines that we built to keep the society going. Can't travel when you want to because it's too much freedom. Put these 3D goggles on, go wherever you want. We got this joint that'll patch into your head and you'll feel everything too, like you're really there. Remember the hot cold we were talking about? That hot cold we were talking about? The reason the hot cold was important is because, remember, the earth gave black people what they needed in their society. They didn't have to fight. That's why we look at ourselves as a humane people. We don't want to fight, we don't want to strife, but we'll ball a dude up when we got to. Right? We look for reasons to really fight. Right? And so with all that happening, they come from a society where I always had to fend for everything. I always had to fight for something. So I'm a fighting person. What happens in the body? Red blood cells are actually called black blood cells. White blood cells defend them. You place things in their proper nature order and they do what they're supposed to. So when black people come together, start producing things that have an affinity to their body and their society, white people say we can't match them. So we'll defend what they build as long as they take care of us. So you take care of them, they stop trying to take care of themselves. They're doing what they do. You have to do what you do. If you don't take care of yourself, they say, man, see, this is what I'm talking about. Charging $25,000 for that surgery. They start doing that to you. And then you complain about it, but you don't actually stand up for yourself. When your health gets better, you qualify for life insurance, your kids get mad money. Cops can't kill you no more because every time they do, it's worth $1 million. Stop shooting the kids. They keep getting insurance money and $1 million and they're taking over the society. I'm only saying this stuff because I'm a product of a thought of a lot of people who came before me. Dad, mom dukes, neighbors, all of y'all in here. I'm a product of what everybody's been saying. My job was to put it together and tell you what we need to be looking for. So if you care enough, you heal yourself and you show everybody around you how it's done, including your kids. But if you keep eating bad, children are growing up trying to wonder how to survive. So if they see you doing something, they're going to think it's how they survive. So when they get sick and you say it's genetic, they're going to repeat it. The sins of the father shall be visited on the generations 1,000 times over. See what I mean? You just keep repeating the process. So you stop the process, everything else around you will change. Again, like I said earlier, that's why Whole Foods exists. Somebody changed their thinking, the government had to swing with it. So regardless of that video I showed y'all, if we do it as a collective, even if they threaten to kill and take things away, you say, I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it unless you give me what I want. They have to move in that direction. And you gotta be willing to stand on that. Hey, thanks for coming out, y'all.
Some mighty and some meek, and we're sent down from the heavens to achieve a destiny. Yes, we're angels.
Let's get this right, let's be clear. I wish they all could have been here. See me fly so high, yeah, we up there. No fear, so they say it ain't no fear. Let's get this right, let's be clear. Let's get this right, let's be clear. No fear, so they say it ain't no fear. No fear, so they say it ain't